8 o'clock at night. The four guys from room 415, plus Miles, shuffled out of the gaming lounge. As they headed toward the food truck park, Rex Gao was holding court, spittle flying. "Good thing I went full carry mode in that last team fight," he declared. "Otherwise, it would have been just like the last few games, a total loss because of Leo dragging us down. We played the long game perfectly, and he almost threw it all away." Rex shot Leo a look of theatrical disappointment. "Leo, I remember us playing together at the start of the semester. Your skills were right up there with mine and Felix's. How'd you get so washed?" I'm not that bad, am I?" Leo rubbed his nose, a little embarrassed. He didn't feel like he was playing terribly, but there was no denying his stats for the last few games had been abysmal. He couldn't quite put his finger on why. Felix pushed his glasses up his nose and smiled. "Leo's been buried in Starfall business since the first few weeks of school. He barely plays anymore. We're in here, grinding every day, so our mechanics are sharp and we're on top of all the patch notes. It's totally normal for his skills to be a little rusty." He paused, then gave Rex a knowing look. "And Rex, I have a feeling it won't be long before you're in the same boat." "Bullshit. I'm not managing a company. I can play whenever I want. I'll be on top forever." "Get real," Felix countered. "You're dating P18.She now, so half your time is already spoken for. Plus, I saw the news online. Starfall Media just got that investment from Chatter T. Do you know who they are? With their backing, Starfall is going to take off like a rocket. The growth is going to be insane, and as their lead talent manager, your workload is about to explode. You think you'll have time for gaming?" Rex's jaw dropped. He'd been so wrapped up in his new relationship with Nora that he'd barely given Starfall a thought. Felix's words hit him like a ton of bricks. He let out a long, mournful sigh. "Damn it, life is hard, and a pretty boy's gotta work. Leo, you're buying tonight, you damn capitalist." And just like that, the five of them found a spot at a barbecue joint in the food truck park and ordered 3 cases of beer. To prevent another one of Rex's drunken spectacles, they put him on a strict 4-bottle limit. Not a drop more. In truth, Leo knew that everyone's workload at Starfall was about to increase. Even with Chatter T's investment expanding their scale, finding qualified new hires on short notice was a challenge. And since Rex was currently their only talent manager, his workload was already several times that of a normal employee. Initially, Leo had thought this was a good thing for Rex. It would be valuable experience, and when he graduated and went back to his family's business, he'd at least have a solid resume. It would give him the confidence to wield the power and resources his father would eventually grant him without getting taken for a ride. But now that Rex was in a relationship, his focus was naturally divided. Thinking it over, Leo pulled out his phone and sent a message to Aiden Kane, his secretary. He told him to start recruiting several more talent managers as soon as possible. It would lighten Rex's load and keep Starfall's talent acquisition pipeline flowing. Halfway through their meal, Rex, his face flushed, turned to Felix. "Hey, Felix, for Memorial Day weekend, we're all going hiking. You're bringing Cece, right?" Felix couldn't help but smile. "Of course. You're bringing Nora, so I'm definitely bringing Cece. It's about time you guys met her anyway." "Man, I'm so jealous," Ned and Neo sighed dramatically. "I'll just bring my phone." Listening to them, Leo was completely lost. "What are you three talking about? You made plans to go hiking over the break?" Hearing the confusion in Leo's voice, Felix smacked his forehead. "Oh man, I forgot all about you. You were in New York yesterday, so you weren't here." Mr. Campbell called a last-minute class meeting last night, something about fire safety education. Both of the freshman finance sections were there. After it was over, as we were about to head back to the dorms, Ronan Fong, our class social chair, suggested our 2 sections do a joint event for the holiday. After some discussion, we decided to go hiking at Mount Sterling and spend a day at a rustic lodge near the base of the mountain. It sounds like fun. A ton of people from both classes signed up, and everyone's allowed to bring a guest. We're splitting the cost, so it's less than $300 a person. A pretty good deal. Felix had barely finished when Rex grinned slyly. "Don't worry, Leo. I already figured you'd want to bring Isabel, you dog. So I fronted the $300 for you. You can Venmo me later." Leo made a face. "If you're going to pay for me, why didn't you just cover Isabel, too?" "TCH, you think I didn't try?" "But Isabel's got Haley and her crew. They had her covered before I could even get my phone out." Leo nodded. It'd sound like fun. A big group trip to a country lodge, with a little hiking thrown in. Mount Sterling wasn't nearly as treacherous as Eagle Peak. It was the kind of place you could take your time and enjoy the scenery on the way up. Then a thought occurred to him. He turned to Felix. "By the way, did you see if Clara Shin signed up?" "Yeah, she was right behind me in line. Looked like she signed up her boyfriend, too." "So she did sign up Kevin," Leo thought. He then asked, "When's the deadline? Is it too late to sign someone else up tonight?" "You have until next Monday." Leo nodded, then turned to Miles. Miles, I'll sign you up tonight, too. If I'm going with Isabel, it'd be a little awkward for you to just tag along without being part of the group. You can come as my guest. Kevin and Clara will be there, too. And since it's 2 whole classes, there will be plenty of single girls. Who knows, you might even meet someone. Miles scratched his head sheepishly. Whatever you think is best, Leo. Meanwhile, at the next table over, a middle-aged man in a baseball cap listened to their conversation, his ears perking up slightly. He pulled a phone from his pocket and tapped out a text. Boss, they're going to Mount Sterling for Memorial Day weekend. It's a good opportunity. After dinner, the 4 guys from room 415 said goodbye to Miles and headed back to campus, arms slung over each other's shoulders. It was late April, and the temperature was mild. Even at 10 o'clock at night, the campus paths were still dotted with students. They hadn't been back on campus for long when they saw P18.She walking toward them, carrying a thermos. A huge grin spread across Rex's face. All right, guys, you head back. Nora brought me some hot water. I'm going to take her for a walk around the track, sober up a bit. Leo, Felix, and Ned all rolled their eyes and flipped him off in unison. Shamelessly, Rex just chuckled and wobbled over to Nora, deliberately staggering and letting out a little whoa for effect. Watching Rex's performance, Felix scoffed again, muttering to Leo and Ned, "What's that saying? Give a man a little buzz, and he'll act for your applause." That's Rex to AT. Yup, Leo agreed with a smirk. They all knew Rex's tolerance. They had made sure he didn't drink much that night. And besides, that wasn't how he acted when he was actually drunk. If they ever got him wasted in front of Nora, she'd realize all his previous drunken displays were pure theater. Of course, they weren't bored enough to actually do that. A little scheming and a few harmless tricks were part of the fun of dating. Otherwise, what was the point? It was like how Leo and Isabel always claimed they just wanted to play games together, when the games had long since become a pretext. They'd start playing, and before long, they'd be doing other things. As they neared the men's dorm, they had to pass the Chatter Tea Boba shop. The moment they walked by, Leo's sharp eyes caught a familiar figure stepping out. He squinted, then cleared his throat. "Hey, Felix, Ned, you two go on ahead. I've got something to take care of. I'll be back later." Huh. The other two followed his gaze and quickly spotted Isabel. Felix and Ned exchanged a look, and just as they had with Rex, they gave Leo a matching middle finger. Ned sighed dramatically and threw an arm around Felix's shoulder. "See, Felix, you're the best. Your CC doesn't go to our school, so you'd never abandon me. You're my guy." But as soon as the words left his mouth, and before Felix could respond, the phone in his pocket buzzed. Hold on a sec, Ned." Felix quickly pulled out his phone and saw a video call from Cece. He frantically ran a hand through his messy hair, pasted on a smile, and answered. "Hey, what's up? Why the surprise video call?" "Oh yeah, just finished eating with the guys. Almost back at the dorm. No, I only had a little. Don't worry. Hold on. Let me find a place to sit and we can talk." Watching Felix get completely absorbed in his call with Cece, ignoring him entirely, Ned just stood there, stunned. Dude, seriously? In the end, Ned walked back to the dorm alone. After washing up, he curled up in his bed and opened the novel he'd been reading. The sweet, romantic interactions between the main characters quickly chased away the gloom from being abandoned by his 3 roommates, and soon he was cackling to himself under the covers. Buying boba all by yourself? Where are Haley and the others? Leo had walked right over to Isabel the moment he saw her outside Chatter Tea. He noticed she was just in flip-flops. A quick scan confirmed she was alone. Haley and the others went back already, Isabel said, her tone a little cool. Leo saw right through it. "You came to meet me, didn't you? Why lie about it? Don't think I don't know. Miles must have texted you that I was back on campus, and you timed this perfectly to run into me, right?" Isabel looked up, meeting the lingering smile in Leo's eyes, and couldn't help but pout. "Leo, you're getting a little too smart." "I've always been smart, thank you very much," he said with a laugh. In reality, he hadn't always been this good at reading her. For a long time, he had relied on hearing her thoughts to understand her little schemes. And since he couldn't just come out and say what he'd heard, he was always afraid she'd discover his secret. It wasn't until he could no longer hear her thoughts that he truly started to understand her. So, in a way, he had gotten a little smarter. Isabel took a sip of her boba through the straw, then offered it to Leo. He saw the cute little indentations her teeth had left on the plastic, along with a faint smudge of lipstick. He didn't mind at all, taking the cup and drinking from it before asking casually, "I'm guessing Haley already told you about the lodge trip and the Mount Sterling hike for Memorial Day?" "MHM, Haley told me. We spent all afternoon online picking out new outfits to wear," she said. At the mention of the trip, her eyes lit up and her voice became more cheerful. Leo smiled. "I saw Miles up too. It's not just for your safety. Clara signed Kevin up, and it wouldn't be right to leave Miles out. Isabel, now perfectly in sync with him after so many nights spent in the same bed, immediately caught his other meaning. She narrowed her eyes. Jesse's never dated anyone. You think maybe? That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. Leo grinned. If Miles knew you were helping him find a girlfriend, he'd probably cry tears of gratitude. They had reached the entrance to the women's dorms. Leo casually took her hand and steered her toward the grove. Leo, what are you doing? Isabel asked, suddenly alert. Just strengthening our bond. It's time for a little diplomatic exchange in the moral dead zone to make sure our lip service remains firm. It was 11 o'clock by the time Leo got back to his dorm. Before going in, he stopped by the communal bathroom down the hall to wash the lipstick smudges off his mouth, hoping to avoid the inevitable teasing from Rex and the others. After cleaning his face, he ducked into a stall to take care of business. When he came out to wash his hands at the sink, he saw someone hunched over, splashing water on their face. It was Rex. Leo crept up behind him and gave his ass a solid smack. Smack! Ow, damn it! Who the hell was that? Rex spun around, cursing. When he saw Leo, his eyes immediately darted away, and he avoided his gaze. Leo, man. What the hell was that for? TSK. What are you doing in here, Rex? Why are you washing your face in the communal bathroom instead of our room? Just get back from a makeout session with Nora? Afraid we'd see the lipstick? Rex jumped as if his tail had been stepped on, his eyes still flickering nervously. WH, what are you talking about? I drank too much and felt sick. I just threw up outside, so I came in here to rinse my mouth out. Leo didn't buy it for a second. He raised an eyebrow, stepped closer, and said playfully, Oh, you threw up? I may not know much, but I know your tolerance. There's no way the little bit we let you drink tonight was enough to make you sick. You're not being very honest, are you, Rex? Leo crossed his arms, looking Rex up and down with a smirk. Rex squirmed under his gaze, his face turning beet red. He subconsciously kept scrubbing his hands under the running water, as if he could wash away his panic. Just then, Rex noticed something off about Leo's face. His eyes widened in realization. Wait a minute. Leo, why the hell is your mouth wet? You were in here washing your face right before I was, weren't you? Rex started pointing and sputtering, a half-erased lipstick smudge still visible at the corner of Leo's mouth. Holy crap. You were just with Isabel, weren't you? You guys were totally making out, and you have a nerve to call me out? Hypocrite. Damn it, I missed a spot. Leo exclaimed, quickly splashing more water on his face. After he was done, he rubbed his nose, looking a little sheepish. Back in the dorm, Leo got the class social chair Ronan Fawn's contact info, paid for Miles' spot on the trip, and then joined the other three for a half hour of cards. The days leading up to the Memorial Day weekend were idyllic for Leo and Isabel. They went to class, ate together in the dining hall, and spent their evenings on the athletic fields or in the grove, diligently reinforcing their lip service. When they didn't have class, Leo would occasionally drag Rex to the Starfall office to catch up on work and hold a quick meeting, followed by an intense workout at the gym. News of Chattertee's investment in Starfall Media spread like wildfire through the industry, even trending on social media for a few days. Chattertee itself was a brand that generated massive buzz, and as a result, Starfall was flooded with collaboration requests. Companies that Starfall's business development team once had to chase now came knocking on their door, proposals in hand. With the influx of ad revenue and other resources, Starfall signed nearly 20 new influencers and expanded into new content verticals. Thirst traps, scripted skits, single-creator multi-character shorts, surrealist humor, and more. They quickly cultivated 10 accounts with over 5 million followers and 4 with over 10 million. Many independent creators who had built their followings through high-quality content began approaching Starfall, hoping to sign with them for greater reach and exposure. In just 2 weeks, Starfall Media had broken into the top 10 TikTok MCN agencies and was still climbing at a breakneck pace. On the afternoon before the holiday weekend began, Leo finished up his work and was about to head to the gym for an hour. Just then, his secretary, Aiden Kane, knocked and entered. Sir, here is the activity proposal for the Memorial Day weekend. Please let me know if there are any changes. If not, I'll circulate it. Leo took the proposal and studied it for a moment. I see the plan is to have our top-tier creators collaborate on videos with our creators who have just hit 1 million followers. The goal is to boost the newcomers and cross-pollinate fan bases. Yes, sir. Other MCNs have tested this strategy. It's proven effective, even when the fan bases aren't perfectly aligned. It's a decent idea, but it puts a lot of strain on our top talent. Let's change it. Have the big creators collaborate with independent influencers who aren't signed to any agency yet. Every MC in out there is trying to scoop up these freelancers. Let's tap into their audiences while they're still available. It's mutually beneficial, so they won't refuse. We can push back the plan to boost our own million-follower creators. Internal collaborations can happen anytime. Aiden nodded. Understood, sir. I'll have the operations team revise the plan right away. As he turned to leave, Leo stopped him. One more thing. Yes, sir. After you submit the revised plan, come with me to a dealership. I'm thinking of getting a new car. Leo's tone was casual. He had originally planned to wait until summer, but Starfall's growth had exceeded all his expectations. As the owner, he needed a vehicle that reflected the company's status, especially for formal occasions. He couldn't have Starfall expanding this rapidly while its owner was still driving a $30,000 car. What would investors and partners think? Of course, sir. Do you have a particular brand in mind? Let's check out Land Rover. At the dealership, a single test drive in a Range Rover was all it took for Leo to make his decision. He left Aiden to handle the paperwork while he drove the new SUV straight back to CPI. 2 hours earlier, Isabel had texted him that the matching couple's t-shirts she'd ordered online had arrived. She wanted him to come back and try on so they could wear them to the lodge the next day. Since the car was brand new, Leo hadn't registered it for campus parking yet, so he couldn't get into the underground garage. He simply parked it on the street. But just as he stepped onto campus, he smacked his forehead. He'd left his phone in the car. He turned to go back, and from a distance, he saw a middle-aged man in a baseball cap leaning against his car window, peering inside. Leo's brow furrowed. "Hey," he shouted. "Who are you? What are you doing?" "Hey, who are you? What are you doing?" Leo strode back to his car, frowning at the middle-aged man who had been pressed against the window. This was a brand-new vehicle. Getting it scratched on the first day would piss anyone off. The man in the cap clearly hadn't expected Leo to return. He started when he saw him, his expression a mixture of shock and panic. His eyes darted around for a second before he forced a smile. "Hey kid, don't worry, I'm not a bad guy. I just saw your car, it's a real beast. I wanted to see the inside, you know? I'll never be able to afford one of these in my life, so just getting a look is enough for me. If I'm bothering you, I'll get going. Don't want to cause any trouble." The man's tone was simple and honest, and his clothes were plain. After his explanation, he pulled his cap down low and started to walk away. But he'd barely turned when Leo's voice stopped him. "Wait a second." The man's body went rigid. With his back still to Leo, a wave of alarm shot through him. Did the kid see through me? His right hand instinctively slipped into his pocket, his fingers closing around the handle of a pocket knife. If Leo didn't let him leave, he would have to act, even here on a crowded street. Self-preservation came first. But then Leo walked up beside him, smiling. "Hey, I wasn't trying to run you off. The car's new. I was just worried about it getting scratched. If you really like it, I can open it up. You can sit inside, get a feel for it. Who knows, maybe one day you'll be able to buy one." Beep beep. Leo clicked the key fob. The lights flashed twice, and he pulled the door handle, gesturing for the man to get in. The man stared, stunned. A wave of relief washed over him, and he relaxed his grip on the knife, pulling his hand out of his pocket. He smiled back at Leo and shook his head. No, that's okay, kid. I'm pretty dirty. Wouldn't want to mess up your new car. Don't worry about it, man. Sit wherever you want." Leo insisted, grabbing the man's arm and guiding him into the new Range Rover. It wasn't just that Leo was being overly friendly. Hearing that this man loved the car resonated with him. There was a time when Leo couldn't have imagined owning a car worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even just a few months ago, it would have seemed impossible. Letting the man sit inside was a small gesture, but Leo didn't want him to walk away with a sense of regret. It was just a look after all. The man got in, pretending to admire the upholstery and test the feel of the driver's seat, muttering about how nice luxury cars were. He didn't stay long before quickly getting out. "Thanks, kid. I got to get to work, so I'll be on my way." "Sure thing." Leo waved as the friendly-looking man walked off. He grabbed his phone from the car, locked the doors, and headed back toward campus to find Isabel and try on their matching t-shirts. Once he was out of Leo's line of sight, Trey, Larry Yuan, ducked into a narrow alley filled with parked bicycles and almost no pedestrians. He let out a long, shaky breath. "Damn, that kid pulled a complete U-turn. Scared the hell out of me. Good thing I'm quick on my feet," he muttered, pulling a pack of cigarettes from his pocket. He lit one and took a deep drag. The next second, a sharp kick to his ass sent him stumbling forward. He flailed for a few steps before crashing hard onto the pavement. Before he even looked back, he roared, "Son of a bitch, who the hell kicked me? You got a death wish." He stopped short when he saw Frank Bishop and Six standing over him. Frank's face was cold, his gaze menacing. "B-Boss, it's you. My mistake, I was just..." Trey's bravado vanished. He shrank back, smiling weakly as he scrambled up from the ground, looking like a kicked dog. He just got into a sitting position when another of Frank's kicks sent him sprawling again. "You idiot!" Frank seethed. "Did you forget everything I taught you?" The kid leaves, and you immediately run over to his car? You have zero awareness. Are you trying to get us all killed? Trey opened his mouth, but said nothing. He knew he was in the wrong and didn't dare argue. Frank must have seen the whole thing. Seeing his silence, Frank planted a foot firmly on Trey's hand and said coldly, "Six, teach him a lesson." "You got it, boss." Six glanced at the cigarette that had fallen to the ground, the one Trey had barely smoked. He picked it up and gave Trey a hollow smile. "Sorry, Trey. You got sloppy, broke the rules. You got to face the consequences." Then, Six pressed the lit end of the cigarette onto the back of Trey's hand, which was still pinned under Frank's boot. A sharp sizzling sound filled the air as the smell of burning flesh followed. Trey's eyes flew open, his body convulsing as pain shot through him. A muffled whimper escaped his throat, but he clenched his jaw, refusing to scream. He knew that would only make Frank angrier. A moment later, Six pulled the cigarette away, leaving a round, blackened burn mark on Trey's skin. Only then did Frank lift his foot. "Don't blame me, Trey," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "We agreed on the rules before we started this. Anyone who screws up gets punished. This is to help you remember. If you're this careless on the day of the job, we won't be so lucky. You'll get us all killed." "I know, boss. It was my mistake," Trey said, forcing himself to his feet, cradling his throbbing hand. Frank stared at him for a long moment before lighting a new cigarette and sticking it in Trey's mouth. "All right, let's go. Tell me what you saw inside the kid's car." "Five has already scouted the lodge and the mountain. We'll grab a bite, then head over there early." He turned to Six. "Go get the car." Shane Zhuang nodded. "On it. You two look so perfect in those matching shirts. I ship it so hard." Haley Xia was practically hyperventilating as she watched Leo and Isabel model their new outfits, her eyes sparkling. "When we're on the trip, I'm officially your personal photographer." Even Leo, whose ego was usually bulletproof, couldn't help but blush a little under Haley's intense praise. Isabel, however, lifted her chin, her face a mask of pure satisfaction. Though Leo could no longer hear her thoughts, he was willing to bet she was thinking something along the lines of, "Haley is a good person." After the fashion show, Leo took Isabel and her friends to the dining hall for dinner. He'd assumed it would be empty since the Memorial Day holiday had technically already started, but the place was packed. Most of the out-of-state students had chosen not to go home for the 5-day break. A round-trip flight or train ticket would cost a couple $1,000s, an entire month's living expenses for some. A long-haul bus was cheaper, but would eat up 2 full days of the holiday. Faced with that reality, most students decided to stay. Why not use the time and money to have some fun with friends instead? Besides, they knew that once they graduated and started working, they'd be too exhausted to travel, even with a long weekend. They just end up scrolling through TikTok on the couch. So, for the vast majority, this was a chance to go all out and have one last big adventure before the end of the semester. The crowd in the dining hall was a testament to that. Everyone was fueling up for an early start the next day. Of course, some were just grabbing a bite before heading back to their dorms to get ready for a night out at the bars. "I'm so excited for tomorrow," Haley said, rubbing her hands together. "When Ronan first suggested the joint class trip, I didn't think many people would go. But he's got amazing pull. Almost 30 people from our 2 classes signed up. And with at least 20 bringing a significant other, that's almost 50 people." She sighed dreamily. "Imagine all of us sitting around a bonfire. It'll be just like one of those teen movies. I can't wait." Leo took a sip of soup and deadpanned. "Haley, what are you getting so worked up about?" "I asked Ronan this morning. Almost everyone who signed up is part of a couple. The few who aren't are just going because they have a crush they want to make a move on. And then there's you. No boyfriend, no crush." Haley snorted indignantly. "So what? I'm single and proud. Besides, Zoe and Jesse are in the same boat as me." Zoe Chong pouted. "Haley, I told you I've been talking to that guy from Leo's class, the one who's the student-athlete rep. If I get a chance on this trip, I was thinking of seeing if there's something there." Haley's face fell. "Okay, fine, so you're out. But at least Jesse is still on my team." "Who knows? Maybe Jesse will find someone on this trip, too," Leo said, exchanging a subtle glance with Isabel. They had already agreed to create opportunities for Miles and Jesse to get to know each other. Of course, they wouldn't force it if there was no spark. But at Leo's words, Haley stomped her foot in frustration. "Leo, your company gets bigger and your heart gets colder. Is that it? I thought we called a truce, but you're still coming after me." She then threw herself dramatically into Isabel's arms, feigning despair. Isabel, look at your husband. He's being so cruel. Aren't you going to do something? Isabel calmly finished a bite of her food and shook her head. Haley, I can't control him. Why not? Isabel pursed her lips and lifted her chin with a cool air. Because I'm cruel to... After dinner, Leo didn't take Isabel to the Grove. With a 5-day break ahead of them, a day at the lodge, a day of hiking, and a day to recover, they would have plenty of time together. The entirety of Mount Sterling would become their moral dead zone. When Leo got back to the dorm, he found Rex with 2 suitcases open on the floor. Clothes were strewn everywhere, pulled from both the suitcases and his closet. Leo frowned. Rex, what the hell are you doing? Planning to set up a flea market at the lodge tomorrow? Piss off. A flea market? Any one of my shirts is worth more than a whole stall, Rex scoffed. Look, a lot of people are going to be there, but this is also the first real trip Nora and I have taken together. I have to carefully consider my wardrobe for the next few days. You got here just in time. Help me out. Which of these looks the most stylish without being too flashy? Leo rolled his eyes, having no intention of indulging him. He glanced over and saw Ned Neo at his desk, tinkering with something. Curious, Leo walked over and saw an assortment of knives laid out. A folding knife, a replica Swiss Army knife, and a large Damascus steel tactical knife. Leo stared, bewildered. Ned, we're going on a scenic trip, not a special ops mission. What are you doing with all these knives? Planning to take someone out in the woods. Ned, we're going on a scenic trip, not a special ops mission. What are you doing with all these knives? Planning to take someone out in the woods. Hearing Leo, Ned scratched the back of his head and chuckled sheepishly. No, man, it's just, we're going hiking, right? I figured if we run into anything weird in the mountains, it's better to be prepared. He paused, his expression suddenly serious. You guys might not read much, but you've seen those cheesy paranormal shows on TV, right? There have been whole episodes about Bigfoot sightings deep in Mount Sterling. A bunch of those spooky folklore novels mention it, too. If it were just 1 or 2 people, I wouldn't believe it, but when so many people talk about it, I think there's a good chance it's real. And if we do run into something, this stuff could really come in handy. Might even save a life. Leo was dumbfounded. Those cheesy paranormal shows? The kind that could turn Rex losing a pair of socks into a 3-part special. His eye twitched. Ned, you actually believe that stuff? Yeah, I used to love those shows. Leo took a deep breath, his expression complicated. Then let me ask you this. Why do you think they all got canceled a few years back? Why? Because now everyone has a smartphone. Ned was speechless. Leo sighed and picked up the folding knife, flicking it open and closed a few times. It was a guy thing. Give a guy a long, straight stick, and he could entertain himself for days. The same went for knives and swords. There was just an inexplicable appeal. After playing with the knife for a moment, he found he didn't want to put it down. It was useless, but it felt cool in his hand. He thought for a moment. Hey Ned, can I borrow this folding knife? I'll give it back after the hike. Take it, take it. I've got plenty more here, Ned said. He then craned his neck toward the others. Rex, Felix, you guys want one? I'll take one, Felix said, looking intrigued. Ned then turned to Rex. Rex, how about you? Nah, I'm good. What am I going to do? Walk around with a knife in my pocket while I'm with Nora? I don't want to scare her, Rex said with a dismissive wave. He then asked, by the way, what time does the bus get here tomorrow morning? When are we leaving? To make things easier, Ronan Fong had chartered a coach bus for the trip. It was scheduled to pick everyone up at the school gate in the morning, saving them the hassle of arranging their own transportation and ensuring no one got left behind. Felix pushed up his glasses. Bus arrives at 9. I figure we'll be on the road by 10, once everyone's gathered. Tomorrow's the first day of the holiday, so it'll be peak travel time. Even on the expressway, it'll probably take over 2 hours. We'll get there in the afternoon. We should all get up early and grab breakfast in the dining hall first. All right, then let's get to bed. The next 3 days are going to be epic, Rex said. After finally choosing his outfits, he and Ned went out to the balcony for a smoke. Leo quickly washed up, dealt with a bit of work on his laptop, and went to bed early. The next morning, the excitement for the trip had all 4 guys in room 415 up before 8. Rex was the first to get dressed, immediately claiming the bathroom to wash his hair and style it meticulously. The others yelled at him to hurry up, but he ignored them. Finally giving up, Leo, Felix, and Ned went to the communal bathroom to get ready. By 8:20, all 4 were packed and on their way to the dining hall. As they ate, they checked the group chat Ronan had created for the trip. Ronan, can the bus come any earlier? A bunch of us are already waiting at the gate. Ronan replied, sorry, no can do. I already confirmed with the driver for 9 sharp. Don't get there so early, guys. Go grab some breakfast. It's a holiday weekend. The expressway is going to be packed. We might not get there by lunchtime. He urged everyone in the chat to eat a big breakfast. Just then, someone in the group sent a photo of a Range Rover. Whoa, is that a Range Rover? I just asked the campus security guard. He said it belongs to one of our students. Damn, we go to the same university, and I'm over here stressing about how to get a few hundred extra bucks for my monthly allowance, while someone's already driving a Range Rover. That car has to be, what, 100 grand? You're seriously underestimating a Range Rover. That's the long wheelbase version. It's probably closer to 300 grand out the door. Seeing the messages flood the chat, Rex, who had been texting Nora, couldn't resist taking a look. His eyebrows shot up. Holy crap, there's someone at our school with that kind of money? Damn, even I don't drive a car that nice to school. Who does this guy think he is? He looked at Leo. Leo, you need to step up your game and get rid of that Volkswagen CC. With your status now, you should be driving something nicer than me. I'm not saying a Range Rover. You're probably not there yet, but at least an entry-level S-Class, right? Leo glanced up at Rex, then went back to his soup. TSK, Leo, don't be like that. Did the Range Rover flex on you, so hard you're speechless? Leo shook his head. No. Then why aren't you saying anything? I don't want to. I'm afraid someone might cry. Go on, say it. It's not like I'm gonna cry. What's the big deal? Leo pursed his lips, then nonchalantly pulled the key fob for his new Range Rover from his pocket and slapped it on the table. Well, actually, that Range Rover parked at the school gate is mine. I just picked it up yesterday. Rex froze, his face a perfect mask of shock. He seemed to have stopped breathing. After a long moment of silence, Leo tilted his head, suppressing a laugh. What's wrong, Rex? A Range Rover got you speechless. What's wrong, Rex? A Range Rover got you speechless. Rex stared at the key fob on the table, as if trying to burn a hole through it with his eyes. No way, no way. He had to be hallucinating. He must have woken up too early. There was no way some new rich kid had just appeared out of nowhere at CPI. If someone at the school had the kind of money to drive a Range Rover, word would have gotten out long ago. Unless they were like him, deliberately keeping a low profile, driving a modest $40,000 car. There were probably a few people like that, but if they were committed to being low-key, why would they suddenly show off like this? It didn't make sense. So, the only person who would suddenly start flexing like this had to be someone who had made a lot of money very, very recently. And who else at CPI fit that description besides Leo, the son of the bitch? As the realization dawned, Rex wanted to slap himself. Why did he have to open his big mouth and hand Leo the perfect opportunity to flex on him? Damn it. It took a moment for Rex to find his voice. You dog, he said, his face dark. You're not even trying to be subtle, are you? You make a little money and immediately buy a $300,000 Range Rover. Ever heard of tall poppy syndrome? Leo shrugged. I wanted to be low-key, but my success wouldn't allow it. I bought it mostly for business meetings and to impress potential partners. Starfall is on the rise. I can't have the owner showing up in a $30,000 car. Even if I don't care, the investors would. It would bring down the company's image. Ugh, stop talking. The flexing is unbearable. I think I'm dying, Rex groaned, all appetite gone. He felt like he couldn't breathe. Ned and Felix finally snapped out of their shock. They looked at the keys on the table, not with Rex's wounded pride, but with pure envy. Rex's family was wealthy. He could buy a Range Rover or even $1 million supercar anytime he wanted. But his father had taught him to be discreet, so he never flaunted his wealth. The reason Leo's flex hit him so hard was simple. He was the real rich kid, so why did Leo get to be the one who looked so damn cool? It was a classic case of Rex's calculated effort being no match for Leo's spontaneous genius. Man, I'm so jealous of Leo, Ned said. We're not even done with our freshman year, and he's already driving a Range Rover. If I work for 20 years after graduation, my entire salary combined might just be enough to buy one of those. Felix pushed up his glasses. Ned, you're being way too optimistic. Sure, we go to a good school, but with the current job market, we're not much better off than graduates from state school. We'll be lucky to land a job paying 80 grand a year right out of college. Who can even dream of a stable, high-paying job anymore? Damn, and to think we actually studied hard. If we had worse grades, we'd probably starve. It's not that bad, Felix said, looking at Leo. In today's world, a degree is just a foot in the door at big companies. If you have real skills, your education becomes less important. Right, Leo? Starfall is probably like that. You care more about hard skills, and a degree is just a tiebreaker between equally qualified candidates. Yeah, that's pretty much it, Leo said, finishing the last of his breakfast. He didn't elaborate. As the head of Starfall, he could easily give Felix and Ned jobs. But he hadn't brought it up. Their major was the same as his, but unlike Rex, they didn't have his unique eye for talent. They wouldn't be suited for a role like talent manager, which didn't rely on a specific degree. As it stood, There were no suitable positions for them at Starfall. But as the company grew, that might change. Still, Leo wouldn't make any promises like, just come work at Starfall after you graduate. He was close with them, but it wasn't the same as his bond with Kevin and Miles, who he'd grown up with. He'd happily give them jobs at the company, even if they contributed nothing, just because of their history. Felix and Ned were different. He couldn't keep them on if they weren't pulling their weight. He didn't want his promise to make them complacent. If they truly wanted to join Starfall, they would spend the next 3 years developing their skills. And when they were ready, if they asked, he would never turn them down. At 8:50, Leo's phone buzzed. It was Isabel. Leo, are you done with breakfast? Haley and I are already at the school gate. If you haven't eaten, I can grab you something from the cafe. Her sweet voice came through the phone. No, I'm good, Leo said with a smile. Rex and the guys and I just finished at the dining hall. I was about to see if you guys were coming, but I guess you got an even earlier start. Oh, okay. Well, hurry up. I'm waiting for you at the gate. All right, be right there. After hanging up, Leo wiped his mouth, stood up, and patted his butt. You guys done? Let's roll. The bus will be here any minute. You guys go ahead, Rex said, a sly grin replacing his earlier gloom as he rubbed his hands together. I'm gonna go pick up Nora from the girls' dorms. Leo raised an eyebrow. Didn't you tell her to meet at 9? It's almost that now. You're cutting it a little close. The official meeting time is 9:30, Rex said with a chuckle. I told her 9:30 so she could sleep in a little longer. I'll go get her now, and we'll be at the bus by 9:20. We won't be late, and Nora gets some extra rest. You're a genius, Leo said, giving Rex a genuine thumbs up. Just then, Felix checked his phone and scratched his head. Leo, since Rex is going to get Nora, let's head to the gate. Cece just got here, and I need to go meet her. She doesn't know anyone, and I don't want her to feel awkward. All right, let's go. Leo, Ned, and Felix walked toward the school gate together. As they got closer, they could see a crowd of students from the freshman finance classes gathered there. The guys were all dressed to impress, especially their hair. Several of them looked like they'd just come from a salon, having had their hair professionally styled. They were even more conspicuous than Rex. The girls were a vibrant kaleidoscope of colors and styles, most of them in pretty skirts and dresses that fluttered in the warm May breeze. They stood in small groups, laughing and chatting, a picture of youthful energy. Ahem, Leo, Ned, I see my girlfriend. I'm gonna go over there. I'll introduce you guys in a bit, Felix said, spotting Cece. He gave them a quick wave and hurried off toward the bus stop, backpack bouncing on his shoulders. Leo and Ned looked in the direction he was running and saw a girl in a light windbreaker standing by the bus stop shelter. She looked to be about 5'5", half a head shorter than Felix, but her stunning figure made even Leo's eyebrows shoot up. Damn, Felix. After a moment of admiration, Leo turned his attention back to the crowd, his eyes scanning for Isabel. He spotted her almost immediately and clapped Ned on the shoulder before heading toward where she stood with Haley and the others. Today, Isabel was wearing a light blue floral sundress. The simple, elegant cut highlighted her slender waist, and the A-line skirt flared out slightly. A delicate, matching belt with a small bow was tied around her waist, its ribbons dancing in the breeze, adding a touch of playfulness to her look. To top it all off, she wore a lacy straw sun hat. She looked like a princess straight out of a fairy tale, breathtakingly beautiful. Nearly every student, boy and girl alike, couldn't help but steal glances at her. Leo found himself mesmerized, his steps slowing. Isabel seemed to sense his gaze and turned from her conversation with Haley. The moment she saw him, a brilliant smile lit up her face, her eyes curving into happy crescents. She lifted her hat slightly and waved. That broke the spell, and Leo quickened his pace to join her. You look amazing today, he said, and he meant it. This was, without a doubt, the most beautiful he had ever seen her. The hint of coldness that had always lingered in her eyes was completely gone. He figured it was what Lester had said. The rift between her and her father had finally healed, and the thorn in her heart had been removed. The shackles that had restrained her true personality had finally fallen away. Beside them, Haley cooed, Ooh, you look amazing today. Who are you trying to make jealous? Isabel tried on like a dozen outfits last night before she finally settled on this one. She then gave Leo a thumbs up. Good job, Leo. Complimenting our girl right off the bat. A+ boyfriend material. Isabel's cheeks turned a faint pink. She gently tugged on Leo's sleeve, her eyes sparkling as she looked up at him. Do I really look that good? You do, Leo said with absolute sincerity. This is the most beautiful I've ever seen you. His earnestness made her blush even more. She leaned against him, smiling shyly, a sight that made the single guys in the group die a little inside. Miles, though part of the group, was on duty. He kept a respectful distance behind Leo and Isabel, his eyes constantly scanning the surroundings, ever vigilant. As they all laughed and joked, the charter bus finally pulled up. Ronan Fong, as the organizer, naturally took on the role of group leader. He picked up a small megaphone he'd brought along, cleared his throat, and announced, "All right, everyone, line up and board one by one. Don't push, be careful. We're not leaving until 9:30, so there's no rush." Heeding his words, no one rushed the bus. Once it had come to a complete stop, people began to file on. A few of the guys who were smokers, realizing this was their last chance before a long bus ride, squatted by the side of the road to get their final fix. Leo was about to suggest to Isabel that they get on and find seats near the middle. He knew from experience that the back of a long bus could get incredibly bumpy on the rougher country roads, when a taxi pulled up right in front of him. Kevin Xiong hopped out, a backpack slung over his shoulder. He grinned. "Leo, am I late? I usually rely on my roommates' alarms to wake up. Everyone went home for the holiday, so I was on my own. I forgot to set an alarm last night and almost overslept." "You're not late, but if you had forgotten about this, Clara probably would have been waiting here for you all morning," Leo said with a smirk, pointing to where Clara Shun was standing nervously by herself a short distance away. "Look, she's been waiting over there for you. I think she even brought you breakfast. Go on. All right, I'll talk to you on the bus." "I'm gonna go find her," Kevin said, hurrying over to Clara. After he left, Isabel looked at Leo, confused. "Why didn't you ask Clara to come over and talk with us?" "She's pretty shy," Leo explained. "She's comfortable with us, so she wouldn't feel too awkward even if Kevin wasn't here. But she doesn't know Haley and the others very well. Making her come over and join a conversation with strangers would probably be more uncomfortable for her than just standing alone. It's better to let her wait for Kevin so they can have a moment to themselves." As he said it, Leo found himself a little surprised. In the past, he never would have noticed such subtle social dynamics. It seemed that as Starfall grew and he managed more and more people, he had gotten into the habit of observing everyone around him. Across the street, in a small cafe, Frank Bishop sat by the window, eating a breakfast bun and watching the group. Over the past 15 minutes, he had identified and secretly photographed Leo, Isabel, and their closest friends. He picked up his phone and made a call. 6. I sent the pictures to the group chat. Make sure you all memorize the faces. When we get to the location, we stick to the plan. With 10 minutes to go before the 9:30 departure, almost everyone had arrived. Ronan was in the group chat, tagging the few stragglers and urging them to hurry. Rex had shown up 5 minutes earlier with Nora in tow. Once everyone was accounted for, Felix, holding hands with the impressively curvaceous Cece, brought her over for an introduction. "Honey, these are my 3 roommates, Leo, Rex, and Ned." He then turned to his friends, a hint of bashfulness in his voice. "Guys, this is my girlfriend, Cece Chung. She's a student at Cust, 2 years ahead of us." Cece was wearing a white sun shirt, its sleeves billowing in the breeze to reveal slender wrists. She gave the 3 of them a sweet, honey-laced smile. "Hi, it's nice to meet you all. Felix talks about you guys all the time. And hey, just because I'm a couple years older, don't feel like you have to be all formal with me, okay?" She was charming and easygoing, putting everyone at ease. But when she smiled, the 2 very prominent features on her chest bounced slightly, causing all the guys except Felix to blush and quickly avert their eyes. Finally, at 9:30, everyone was on the bus. After a final head count, Ronan got on and gave the driver the go-ahead. "We're all set, sir. Let's go." The bus rumbled to life and slowly pulled away from the curb. The 40-plus students inside were buzzing with excitement, their laughter and chatter filling the air as they discussed what they would do when they arrived at the lodge. Isabel was huddled with Haley and her friends, whispering and giggling about their own secrets, occasionally glancing over at Leo with knowing smiles. He paid them no mind, figuring Isabel was just sharing some harmless gossip about them. During a lull, Leo turned to Miles, who was sitting next to him. "Miles, the undercover security detail. They'll be following us on this trip, right?" Miles nodded. "Yes, sir. Per Lester's instructions, we're to stay with Isabel whenever she's not at school or at home, especially in an unfamiliar place like this. We have to be extra cautious." He added, "I've already had a few of them scout out the lodge ahead of time. They even hiked Mount Sterling twice to check for any potential risks." Leo's eyes widened. That seemed a bit excessive. If Sharon Thornton was going to make a move, she would have a hard time doing it on this trip. Creating an accident on the road would be suicide. With nearly 50 witnesses on the bus, it would be impossible to cover up. And orchestrating something at the lodge or on the mountain would be equally difficult. Only students from their 2 finance classes knew about the trip, so there was no way the information could have leaked to Sharon. Any plan would have required advanced preparation, and she wouldn't have had time to set something up on such short notice. Miles seemed to read Leo's expression. He gave a wry smile. You think Lester's being paranoid, don't you? I thought so too at first. Since I started this job, there hasn't been a single incident. I doubt Sharon would dare to do anything to Isabel. And even if she tried, my team and I would be there to protect her. She wouldn't stand a chance. Leo nodded. Yeah, she hasn't made a move yet, so she probably won't. After this break, Isabel's father's case goes to trial. The evidence is all there. He'll be exonerated quickly. And once he's out, Sharon will be the one under investigation. She'll be locked up for a long time. Once she's no longer a threat, you won't have to stick so close to Isabel anymore. Sensing Miles might be disappointed, Leo quickly added, of course, if you like the work, you can stay on with the Thorntons. The pay won't be as high, obviously, but it'll still be good. At least 20 grand a month. If not, you can always. Miles cut him off. I know what you're getting at, Leo. Don't worry about me. I'm grateful that Isabel gave me the chance to earn this much money in such a short time. My grandfather's medical bills are all taken care of, and I should be able to pay you back by the end of the year. Once things are settled with Isabel, I want to go back to teaching at the dojo. Before Leo could reply, Kevin, who had been eavesdropping, chimed in. No way, Miles. I was hoping you'd join us at Starfall after this. The three of us could take the company to the top. Thanks, Kevin, but I'm not smart enough for that kind of work. I belong at the dojo. The pay won't be as good as working with you guys, but I love it there. Kevin was about to argue, but Leo stopped him. Let it go, Kevin. If Miles loves the dojo, we shouldn't force him. Everyone has their own path. If he told you that you could make millions a month as a dojo instructor, would you do it? Kevin scratched his head. Oh yeah, I would. Teach a few punches a day and make millions a month? Where do I sign up? Leo's eye twitched. This big, dumb knucklehead was impossible. He turned to Clara, his face a mask of exasperation. Clara, is he always this? Smooth-brained when you two are on dates. Just as everyone had predicted, the expressway was jammed with holiday traffic. The bus had been on the road for less than an hour when it came to a dead stop. A multi-car pile-up ahead had closed all but 2 lanes. Despite the delay, the mood on the bus remained cheerful. The girls shared snacks from their backpacks, while the guys huddled together, playing games on their phones. Seeing this, Isabel's eyes narrowed. Leo, let's play. Are you really that addicted? Leo teased. Ever since he had introduced her to Valiant Legends, she had been completely hooked, demanding they play a few rounds every night before bed. At first, he had thought she genuinely liked the game, but then he noticed that she had gifted him nearly every skin for every character he owned. He realized it wasn't about the game at all. It was about the in-game relationship status they had. Gifting skins and playing together were the fastest ways to increase their intimacy level. Still, he pulled out his phone and played a couple of rounds with her. He finally called it quits after the bus cleared the congested area. Staring at a phone screen in a moving vehicle was starting to make him dizzy. After another hour, they finally exited the expressway and turned onto the main road leading to Mount Sterling. They still had about an hour to go, but the weather was perfect with clear blue skies. In the distance, they could already see the silhouette of the mountain. The landscape had transformed into rolling farmland. A few dogs trotted leisurely along the side of the road, their tails wagging. A flock of birds suddenly took flight, their wings cutting through the pristine blue sky. The students put away their phones and opened their windows, sticking their heads out to take in the breathtaking scenery. Rex, who had been restraining his usual show-off tendencies for Nora's sake, couldn't hold back any longer. He opened his window, stuck his head out, and took a deep, dramatic breath. You have to admit, the country is different, he proclaimed. Even the air has a certain quality you just don't get in the city. He sniffed again, his brow furrowing. Wait, what's that smell? It's a little pungent. Is that part of the unique country aroma? Leo rolled his eyes. You idiot. That's not a unique aroma. That's manure. Oh crap. Rex immediately slammed the window shut, his face turning a mortified shade of red as the bus erupted in laughter. He looked like he wanted the earth to swallow him whole. Beside Leo, Isabel seemed to be getting tired from the long ride. She rested her phone face down on her lap, propped her arm on the windowsill, and leaned her head against it, quietly watching the fields fly by. Her delicate features were reflected in the glass, her eyelashes casting long shadows on her cheeks. Leo could see the excitement and anticipation sparkling in her eyes. He gently ruffled her hair. We should be there in about 20 minutes. Mission, she hummed, then leaned her head against his shoulder and closed her eyes, a blissful smile on her face. Haley and the others, watching this, groaned in unison. Get a room. We can't watch this. We just can't. Wildwood Farms and Lodge. Following Frank Bishop's orders, Trey had arrived with 5 and 6 2 days early, booking 2 rooms and thoroughly scouting the area. They had familiarized themselves with the entire village where the lodge was located, even drawing a map of the terrain, marking every alley, corner, and exit. Trey, boss just messaged, Six said, looking up from his phone. The bus is about 15 minutes out. He said to be on the lookout. Trey sat up from a bed where he'd been lounging, lit a cigarette, and said, Open the curtains. That girl's bodyguards are definitely here, and they're professionals. Keeping the curtains drawn during the day will look suspicious. Once they're open, you and 5 stay away from the windows until dark. And I can't be seen at all. That kid Leo already saw my face. I'm staying put for now, so the boss doesn't chew me out again for being reckless. Got it. 6 nodded, then looked at 5. 5, get the thing out. Let's check again. 5 hesitated. Are we really going to use that? Things aren't like they were a few years ago. If we use it, this whole thing gets a lot more complicated. They'll hunt us down with everything they've got. We're not saying we're going to use it, 6 said patiently. We're just checking to make sure it works. We won't use it unless we absolutely have to. But for the plan to be 100% successful, we need to have it with us in case something goes wrong. If we don't tie up all the loose ends, that's when we'll be in real danger. Hearing this, 5 sighed. He knelt and pulled a shoebox out from under the bed. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, lay a piece of black steel. The sight of it brought a cold, hard look to the eyes of all 3 men in the room. 5 picked it up, expertly disassembling and reassembling it, flicking the safety on and off, ejecting and reloading the magazine. Once he was satisfied it was in working order, he placed it back in a box. Trey took a drag from his cigarette and smiled grimly. We were out of options, and then they just decided to take a little trip. This place is at the foot of a mountain, not like the city with cameras on every corner. We can make our move here with minimal risk, and it'll be easy to escape afterward. It's like a gift from God. He paused, then looked at 6. 6, what are you going to do with the money? 6 just smiled without answering. Frank had made it clear. After the job was done, they would take the money and split up, no questions asked, no contact information exchanged. That way, if one of them got caught, they couldn't rat out the others. This would be the last time the 4 of them ever saw each other. Seeing 6 silence, Trey rolled his eyes. Coward. He picked up his phone and dialed a prearranged number. Jonathan, you can let your boss know. We're getting ready to make our move. You'll have news by the day after tomorrow, at the latest. After ending the call with Larry Yuan, Jonathan silently ejected the SIM card from the phone, snapped it in half, and tossed it away. The burner phone itself followed, landing in a nearby trash can. A few moments later, the garbage truck rumbled to a stop, and the sanitation workers heaved the entire bin into the compactor, crushing the phone along with the rest of the refuse. Only after confirming everything was gone did Jonathan smooth his shirt and re-enter the villa. Sharon Thornton was sitting on the sofa, gently rocking the sleeping child in her arms, her face a mask of doting affection. To any outsider, she was the picture of a gentle, devoted stay-at-home wife, her eyes filled with a serene contentment. But the instant she sensed Jonathan's presence, her gaze dropped to the child, and her expression cooled for a fraction of a second. The fleeting chill was like a dark current churning in the depths of a still pond, vanishing as quickly as it came, hidden once more behind a tender smile. How are things? Sharon asked, her voice a soft murmur, as if afraid of waking the baby. Her fingertips traced the soft hair on the child's head. With a final, reluctant look, she passed the baby to a nearby nanny, her eyes locking onto Jonathan. Jonathan managed a faint smile. Ma'am, what you asked me to do. We should see results in the next couple of days. Sharon gave a slight nod, not pressing for details, but the corners of her mouth tightened into a smirk. Jonathan could tell her mood had lifted considerably. She walked to the window, gazing out at the brilliant sunlight bathing the estate. After a long pause, she spoke. Book a flight to Crestview. Tomorrow morning. Jonathan's pupils contracted. He forced himself to remain calm, to quell the storm raging inside him. After a few seconds, he found his voice. Ma'am, under the circumstances, it's best you don't go to Crestview. It's not safe for you. If anything unexpected were to happen, your presence there could cause significant complications. Oh, Sharon's voice was devoid of emotion. Are you suggesting something unexpected will happen with the task I gave you? The question was a blaring alarm in Jonathan's mind. He rushed to deny it. Absolutely not. Rest assured, ma'am, this will only succeed. There is no room for failure. Then that settles it. Since you've guaranteed there will be no surprises, What do I have to worry about? Besides, Sharon's eyes narrowed, her voice now laced with undisguised hatred. That little brat Isabel Thornton will never see it coming. So, not only will I be rid of that major headache, but I also need to see my dear nephew. Give him a little push to get control of Starfall Media back from Leo Yeager. Once Isabel is dealt with, Leo is next. A penniless orphan who actually dared to challenge me. This time, I'll make him understand exactly what happens when you cross someone with real power. A vicious glint flashed in Sharon's eyes, her nails digging so deeply into her palms they nearly drew blood. We're finally here. Ugh, I'm so carsick. I knew I shouldn't have been on my phone the whole ride. Let me out. I think I'm gonna puke. Whoa, this lodge looks awesome. Hey, Ronan, didn't the schedule say something about a bonfire tonight? Put me on grill duty. I'll make a mean skewer. The bus pulled to a stop in front of Wildwood Farms and Lodge. As the doors hissed open, a wave of fresh mountain air, rich with the scent of pine and damp earth, washed over the students. The sight of the mountains surrounding them and the lush greenery drew gasps of admiration. Isabel stepped off the bus, her eyes wide with curiosity and excitement as she watched the red lanterns hanging from the lodge's eaves sway gently in the breeze. Leo saw the look on her face and smiled. He guessed that his little neighbor had probably never been to a place like this in her life. Isabel, quick, grab Leo's arm. Stand right there, don't move. Haley Xia, having already retrieved her camera from her backpack, shouted with theatrical urgency. Realizing Haley wanted to take a picture of them, Isabel obediently walked over to Leo and slipped her arm through his. For a better shot, she leaned her head against his shoulder, a small, sweet smile on her lips. Click! Haley snapped the shutter at the perfect moment, capturing the picturesque scene. Their photo op set a precedent, and soon the other couples were foregoing dropping their bags in their rooms, instead grabbing their single friends to act as impromptu photographers. A few other tourists, staying at smaller cabins nearby, watched a large group of Crestview Polytechnic students arrive, their faces curious. Rex Gao, holding Norichi's hand, grinned at Haley. Hey, Haley, can you get one of me and my girlfriend? Sure, that'll be $20. What? You're shaking me down? You could have just mugged me for $20, but you're giving me a photo. Too? You're too kind. Haley sniffed. Aren't you the rich kid? Is $20 for a picture too much for you? You want or not? I'm leaving. Rex gritted his teeth. Fine. I'll take $100 worth. Haley cackled, calling him a big shot before directing him and Nora to get closer. Of course, she was only joking and never actually took his money. Watching the cheerful chaos, Leo leaned toward Isabel. Let's go drop our stuff off. We can come back out for lunch in a bit. Okay. She nodded obediently, her gaze following his toward the guest cabins. But as she turned, a flicker of movement in a second-floor window caught her eye. A shadow, a figure, gone in an instant. It was as if the person had seen her looking and had quickly stepped back. She dismissed it, jogging a few steps to catch up with Leo, ready to find their room. We're only here for 3 days. Why did you bring so much stuff? Leo grunted, heaving Isabel's suitcase into their room. The thing was surprisingly heavy. Clearly, it was packed to the brim. In contrast, all he brought was a single backpack with a change of clothes and a windbreaker for the hike. His little neighbor's eyes crinkled as she lifted her chin, her tone cool and mysterious. Good stuff. What kind of good stuff? Seeing the look she gave him, Leo was stumped. Then, she suddenly opened her arms and pouted. Hug! Leo chuckled and pulled her into a warm embrace. Unlike in the fall and winter, it was May now, and she was only wearing a light floral dress. Holding her, he could feel the soft, warm curves of her body. It was a comfortable, pliant feeling, and soon, just holding her wasn't enough. Isabel seemed to sense the shift, the tips of her ears turning a faint shade of pink. Just as Leo was about to make his next move, she pushed him away. Leo, you'd better behave. I'm hungry. Let's go get some food. Ahem. His advance broken, Leo coughed awkwardly, scratching his head with an embarrassed smile. Behave? What are you talking about? I'm hungry too. Yeah, let's go eat. Oomph. Isabel shot him a reproachful look, her eyes lingering for a telling moment on the front of his jeans. That afternoon, after a hearty lunch prepared by the lodge's cook at 3 large tables set up in the courtyard, the group dispersed. Those tired from the bus ride went back to their rooms to rest up for the evening's bonfire. The more energetic ones, restless and eager to do something, were organized by Ronan Fong to build the pyre. Leo's crew, meanwhile, had gathered around a table for a game of poker. At first, girls like Clarishan and Norichi were a little shy, feeling awkward playing in such a large group. But after a couple of hands, with Leo and Rex keeping the mood light, they loosened up. They started bluffing and trash-talking along with everyone else. Rex, whose skills didn't quite match his confidence, quickly became the table's biggest loser. Even with low stakes, he lost nearly every hand. Within an hour, he was down almost $400. His plan to show off for Nora had backfired spectacularly, and he was sweating, starting to get genuinely tilted. Thankfully, Nora quickly picked up the game and started helping him, allowing him to win back some of his losses. During the game, Leo and Isabel subtly tried to push Miles and Jesse Chow together. But Miles was just too timid. Even when Jesse, picking up on their intentions, started a conversation with him, he just blushed and stammered a few responses, killing the chat almost instantly. Leo watched, his eye twitching, wishing he could just take over and show him how it was done. By 5 in the afternoon, Ronan's team had finished building the pyre, a solid structure standing over 3 feet tall. Once lit, the flames would easily leap to 6 or 7 feet. The lodge owner, getting into the spirit of things, had his staff bring out grills, along with trays of skewers and vegetables. The prep work was nearly complete, and even though the bonfire hadn't officially started, the atmosphere was already buzzing with excitement. Rona mentioned to Leo that besides their group, there were a few other tourists who had arrived a couple of days earlier. In a gesture of hospitality, Ronan had apparently gone to their rooms to invite them to the bonfire, thinking more people would make it livelier. A few minutes later, he returned with a wry smile. Rex, squatting nearby and sneaking a cigarette, saw him. "Hey, Ronan, did you get those guys to come down for the party?" "Don't even ask. I went up there, and they wouldn't even open the door. So they didn't like big crowds and turn me down. I figured since we'd be making a lot of noise anyway, I'd try one more time. I think I just pissed them off. They actually cussed me out. Man, talk about looking a gift horse in the mouth. I just came back down." After his story, Ronan couldn't help but spit on the ground. "Damn, those guys have a serious attitude problem. I invite them to come get free food, and they curse me out? What kind of people are like that?" "They did what?" Rex's eyebrows shot up. He started rolling up his sleeves. "Let's go, guys. We'll go up there and get an apology for Ronan." He started rallying the other guys, yelling about how there was no way they'd let a few old-timers push them around, and how they'd show them what college solidarity looked like. It was Leo who finally stopped him. "Come on, Rex. If they don't want to come, they don't have to. Let go. So they have no manners. Bitch about it for a minute and move on. There's no need to drag everyone up there. We're here to have fun, right? The last thing we need is a brawl. That would ruin the whole trip. Besides, there are girls here. Can you tone it down a little?" Yeah, it's not a big deal. I was just venting," Ronan quickly added. "Rex, don't do anything crazy." Rex glared up at the second floor where the tourists were staying and snorted. "Fine, I'll let them off the hook. This time." Cece Chung leaned over to Felix's phone and whispered, "Felix, is Rex always this aggressive?" Felix chuckled. "Nah, you're overthinking it, Cece. He's just posturing. If it really came down to it, he's the first one to hide in the back." Since Felix wasn't exactly whispering, several of the nearby girls overheard and broke into quiet giggles. At 6:30, as the sky began to darken, Ronan gave the signal. A few guys lit torches and tossed them onto the pyre. Whoosh! The kindling caught instantly with a deep roar, and within minutes, a massive bonfire was blazing, its flames licking at the twilight sky. The party atmosphere ignited along with it. Nearby, the sizzle and smoke from the grills filled the air, and the entire courtyard was enveloped in the delicious aroma of roasted meat and spices. Isabel watched the fire, the red-orange flames dancing in her eyes. She tugged on Leo's sleeve. "Leo." He thought she was just hungry for some of that greasy food truck barbecue. He grinned. "Want a skewer? Hold on, I'll go sneak one for you." "No, not that." She shook her head, then stood on her tiptoes, bringing her lips close to his ear. Her breath was warm and sweet. "Drink a lot tonight." Leo hadn't given much thought to the heavy contents of Isabel's suitcase. But hearing her now, a sudden realization dawned on him. The good stuff in that suitcase might actually be really good stuff. He raised an eyebrow, a playful smirk on his face. "You're telling me to drink more. Does that mean your suitcase is full of—" "Stop it." Just as Leo was about to say it out loud, Isabel's face flushed scarlet. She quickly clapped a hand over his mouth, cutting him off. Her earlobes were so red, they looked like they might start bleeding. "What are you two whispering about over here?" Haley Xia, the resident shipping expert, materialized out of nowhere. Her big eyes narrowed suspiciously. Leo cleared his throat, annoyed. "Do we have to report every private conversation to you? Get a boyfriend, and then you'll know what couples talk about." "Oomph. Fine, don't tell me. I'm not interested anyway." Haley sniffed. "But save the sweet nothings for your room later. The bonfire ceremony is starting. Get over here." She pointed behind her. Ronan said we need a little pre-dinner ritual. Leo and Isabel looked where she was pointing and saw everyone forming a large circle around the roaring fire. They were holding hands, their faces glowing with excitement. It looked like a scene from a movie, a tribe dancing around a fire on the open plains. Leo remembered then that Ronan was from a family with deep folk traditions. This kind of thing was probably a regular part of holidays back home. It made sense he'd organized something similar here. He glanced at Isabel and saw the eager sparkle in her eyes. Taking her hand, he led her into the circle. Leo found himself standing with Isabel on his left and P18.She on his right. Miles, who was only really comfortable with their group, hesitated. The other guys were already buddied up, and he was too shy to stand next to a girl he didn't know. He lingered outside the circle, unable to find a spot. Leo, maybe I'll just sit this one out. No, Leo cut him off flatly. Well, can I stand between you and Kevin? Get out of here. Kevin and I have stuff to discuss. Find another spot, but I don't know anyone else. Go over by Jesse, the guy on her other side. She doesn't know him that well either. You two played poker together all afternoon. You know her better than he does, right? Come on, man up. Don't be so wishy-washy. Let's go. Everyone's waiting for you. Leo gestured toward Jesse's spot in the circle. For once, Isabel chimed in to help. Yeah, Miles, go on. I already talked to Jesse. At the sight of Jesse, Miles's face went beet red. Even if he was slow on the uptake, he understood now. Since the poker game that afternoon, Leo and Isabel had been trying to set him up with her. At first, he'd been terrified, but after sitting next to her for a while, he realized she didn't seem to mind him at all. She'd even helped him out a few times during the game. Still, he'd had so little experience with girls his whole life that someone like Jesse left him completely flustered. Seeing that the entire group was now looking at him, Miles gritted his teeth and forced himself to walk over to her. Jesse? See, can I stand next to you? Of course. She smiled at him and held out her hand. Quick, take my hand. We're about to start. Oh, okay. Right. Though he was still flustered, a girl was holding her hand out to him. If he didn't take it now, what kind of man was he? He took her hand, the tips of his ears burning. But in the bright, flickering glow of the bonfire, everyone's face was flushed red, making it impossible to tell who was blushing from shyness and who was just warm from the fire. The fire crackled, sending sparks spiraling upwards like golden butterflies. At Ronan's call, the circle began to move, a chorus of cheers rising into the night. Someone started singing the first line of a popular, bittersweet acoustic song that had gone viral on TikTok a few months back. You walked with me through summer, past the city's hum. The song still plays on, your eyes like pomegranate blooms. Miss your gentle ways, lost our garden days, time that never stays, just clouds. In a haze. The lead singer paused dramatically just before the chorus. Everyone glanced at each other. A second later, their voices joined together in perfect, heartfelt unison. I really, really miss you every time it rains. What you choose to forget is what my heart retains. This paper's thin, this love is long. Can't write down all the pain. My story's all about you, again and again and again. A smile spread across Leo's face as he sang along loudly. He could feel Isabel's hand, slick with a light sweat, slipping slightly in his. He turned to look at her. She had her head tilted back, her eyelashes casting tiny shadows in the firelight. Her lips moved with the rhythm, her soft voice joining the chorus. It was the first time Leo had ever heard her sing. Her voice was gentle and beautiful. Of course she sings this well too, he thought. She's like a perfect work of art God left behind in the world, without a single flaw. He watched her mesmerized. Her cheeks were flushed from the fire, brighter and more captivating than any sunset. This was youth, a summer woven from heat and affection. And the moment the boy looked at the girl, with love filling his eyes, that was when summer truly began. The tide of song washed over the night sky. After a couple of numbers, the circle broke apart. People scattered to grab skewers from the grill or crack open beers. A few guys who hadn't gotten their fill of singing found the lodge owner and borrowed a couple of guitars and a hand drum. Among them, naturally, was Rex. Cradling a guitar, he gazed deeply at P18.She and launched into a heartfelt rendition of Ed Sheeran's Perfect. Atmosphere is a funny thing. Once someone sets the mood, it spreads like wildfire. The entire courtyard was buzzing with energy. Later, Zoe Chong even took off her jacket, revealing a pair of daringly short hot pants and a tank top, and performed a sultry dance. Leo, busy peeling a spicy crawfish for Isabel, nudged Rex with his elbow. Hey Rex, didn't you take some dance classes? Get up there and show us your moves. We want to admire your graceful figure. Get lost. Don't bring that up. Rex's face flushed. He grabbed Nora's hand and moved to the seats across from Leo. Leo shrugged and popped the peeled crawfish into Isabel's mouth. It must have been spicier than she expected. After just a few, she was hissing and fanning her open mouth with her hand, trying to cool the burn. Leo couldn't help but laugh. If it's that hot, don't eat it. Have something else. He passed her a few beef tendon skewers. Under a canopy of twinkling stars, the group ate barbecue and drank beer, their laughter echoing through the night. Eventually, someone procured a few jugs of the owner's homemade rice wine, and soon a game of truth or dare was underway. If you couldn't complete the challenge, you had a drink. With so many people, picking someone by drawing cards or rock, paper, scissors was too slow. Haley suggested they play hot potato to decide each round's victim. The loser would be given a truth or a dare by the person who had lost the previous round. If they failed, they drank. The new loser then became the leader for the next round. Everyone loved the idea and crowded around the table. They got a small rubber ball from a staff member to serve as the potato. Thump, thump, clap. Thump, thump, clap. A rhythmic beat echoed as everyone slapped the table. Haley was the leader for the first round. Just as the ball landed in Isabel's hands, she yelled, "Stop!" "Hee hee, Isabel, looks like you're the first one up." Isabel paused, shooting Haley a mock glare, but she was a good sport. She accepted the dare. Haley giggled. The dare is simple. You just have to kiss Leo. And remember, on the lips. A chorus of wolf whistles and cheers erupted from the group. Isabel's face went crimson. Kissing Leo was easy enough, but doing it on the lips in front of all these people, it was mortifying. The teasing intensified, and Isabel's fingers dug into the rubber ball in her hands. Leo saw the blush spreading from her ears and felt his own throat go dry. "If you're too embarrassed," he offered, "you could just drink instead." "I'll drink it for you." Before he could finish, Haley protested. "No way. No substitutions. A dare is a dare." The crowd immediately backed her up. Rex, that jerk, even started whistling. Isabel stared at the second button on Leo's shirt, her heart pounding in her ears. She bit her lip, then suddenly grabbed the collar of his shirt. As everyone gasped, she leaned in and planted a quick, soft kiss on his cheek. Mwah! The sound sent some of the girls into a deafening shriek, as if they had just witnessed the most romantic event in human history. "Umph, I knew you'd be too shy to kiss him on the lips," Haley said, her eyes crinkling with amusement. "Since you only completed half the dare, rules are rules. You still have to drink half a bowl of wine." She grinned mischievously and slid a small ceramic bowl half filled with the rice wine in front of Isabel. Isabel pouted and muttered, "You're a bad person, Haley," before taking the bowl and sipping it. It wasn't beer. The moment the strong liquor touched her tongue, a burning sensation shot down her throat, making her cough. Her face turned even redder than the bonfire. Leo was about to stop her from drinking the rest, but Isabel pursed her lips, lifted the bowl again, and downed it in one go. He stared dumbfounded. "Are you crazy? You actually finished it." "A dare is a dare," she said, sticking out her tongue, which was now tingling from the alcohol. Seeing her like that, Leo couldn't help but smile helplessly. The second round began, this time with Isabel as the leader. Eager to play matchmaker for Miles and Jesse, she called, "Stop," just as the ball landed in Jesse's hands. With a sly smile, she dared Jesse to feed Miles a small cup of wine. Jesse blushed and looked at Miles, seeking his approval. "If you don't want to, it's okay," she whispered. "I can just drink the bowl myself." "No," Miles quickly stopped her. He couldn't let a girl take a penalty because of him. That would be completely unchivalrous. So, in front of everyone, Jesse lifted a small cup to Miles's lips. He took a tiny sip, and his face turned the color of a ripe tomato. "TSK, TSK. Miles, even Leo and I haven't done that yet," Kevin Xiong chimed in. "Jesse's treating you real nice." Leo gave Miles a wicked grin. Miles just lowered his head, his face burning, unable to speak. By now, everyone could see there was definitely something going on between them. And so, the game continued, filled with laughter and cheers. After 7 or 8 rounds, 3 middle-aged men walked over. At first, Leo and the others thought they were lodge employees. But then the men approached Ronan Fong and said something that made his expression sour. Leo realized something was wrong. He tapped Kevin and Rex on the shoulder, and the 3 of them joined Ronan. "What's going on?" Leo asked in a low voice. "Who are these guys?" "There." Ronan's expression was strained. "They're the 3 tourists I tried to invite earlier." He clearly hadn't expected them to show up now, especially after their earlier hostility. Hearing this, Leo and Rex exchanged a look, their own expressions hardening. They remembered Ronan saying the men had not only refused his invitation, but had cursed him out. So why were they here now? Were they looking for trouble? Though Rex was mostly all talk and occasionally a coward, he didn't hesitate. He stepped in front of Ronan, facing the three men. What do you three want? My friend already invited you to the party this afternoon. You didn't just say no, you insulted him. Are you back to start something? He glanced back at Ronan. Don't worry, man. There are a ton of us. If they try anything, we've got your back. The man in the lead forced a smile. Son, you've misunderstood. Misunderstood my ass. He told us exactly what you said to him this afternoon. Don't think you can get away with running your mouth, just because you're a few old-timers. I can't stand people who, hey, Ronan, what are you pulling me for? I'm gonna make this right for you. Seeing Rex was about to go off the rails, Ronan quickly grabbed his arm. Rex, you got it wrong. These gentlemen are here to apologize to me. They said they shouldn't have spoken to me like that this afternoon and hoped I wouldn't hold a grudge. Rex was dumbfounded. Leo and Kevin were just as confused. The lead man seized the opportunity. Sorry about that, fellas. We had a bit to drink at lunch, so when this young man came by, we were a little rough around the edges. Now that we've sobered up, I wanted to bring my brothers over to apologize. Hope you won't hold it against us three old guys. Peace and harmony, right? He continued with a folksy smile. Name's Frank Bishop. These are my two buddies, Shane and Sal. We're all about the same age. You can just call us Uncle. With that, Frank grabbed a bottle from the table and downed 3 full bowls of wine in quick succession. He shot a look at Sal and Shane, who followed his lead, each drinking 3 bowls. Only then did Frank turn back to Ronan, his face a picture of sincerity. Kid, consider this our apology. It's okay, sir. No problem. As long as the misunderstanding is cleared up, Ronan said quickly. After all, these men were his father's age. They were his elders, and since they had apologized so dramatically, it would be bad form to keep holding a grudge. Leo and the others relaxed. It seemed the men weren't as bad as they had thought. Ronan smiled. Well, in that case, would you like to join our bonfire? Frank smiled back. No, that's all right. We'll just grab a bite and turn in. We have an early start tomorrow. We're going hiking. We're not young like you guys anymore. Ronan's face lit up. You're hiking tomorrow, too? That's right. The 3 of us come to this mountain every year around this time. There's a shrine up there that's supposed to be real lucky for getting your fortune told, so we always make a trip at the start of summer. Rex blurted out, so you guys know this mountain pretty well, then? Yeah, you could say that. We've climbed it at least 10 times over the years, Frank nodded. Ronan and Rex looked at each other, their excitement palpable. Sir, if it's not too much trouble, could we tag along with you tomorrow morning? It's our first time here, and we don't have much experience. It would be a lot safer with someone to guide us, keep us from taking a wrong turn. Frank hesitated, looking conflicted. Well, come on, big brother, Sal chimed in from behind him. Let's take him. We're not in any hurry. Besides, after how we treated the kid this afternoon, it's the least we can do. Seeing the hopeful looks on Ronan and Rex's faces, Frank finally relented. All right then, but you have to be ready by 8 a.m. sharp. It takes all day to get to the summit and a few hours to get back down. You don't want to be on this mountain after dark. You got it, Ronan exclaimed. Frank smiled, and after a brief farewell, he and his friends left. Watching them go, Ronan was thrilled. Leo, I was planning on hiring a couple of villagers to guide us up. This mountain doesn't have paved trails and stone steps like Eagle Peak. Without a guide, we'd just be guessing our way up, which would be a pain. I can't believe our luck. Those guys know the mountain, and we just saved a few $100 on a guide. Leo didn't answer right away. He frowned, staring at the backs of the 3 men. He didn't know why, but something about them felt wrong. A deep sense of unease settled in his gut. But after thinking for a moment, he couldn't put his finger on what it was. So, he didn't object. Ronan was the organizer. It was his call. Okay, your call. Leo, what are you guys doing over there? Come back and play. Haley shouted, her voice tinged with impatience. Leo and his friends rejoined the main group and continued their game of truth or dare. By 11, the skewers were gone, the table was a mess, and a few overindulgent students were already passed out drunk. Isabel, having taken 3 penalties, had drunk 3 bowls of the rice wine. A rosy blush colored her cheeks, and she was swaying slightly on her feet, her eyes looking at Leo through a dreamy haze. That rice wine isn't beer, you know. Why did you have to finish the whole bowl every time? A sip would have been enough, Leo sighed, helping his unsteady neighbor to her feet and guiding her back to their room. The moment they were inside, she wrapped her arms around his neck, her warm breath caressing his face. Her eyes crinkled into a smile. Leo, go open my suitcase. It's full of all your favorite things. In the end, Leo didn't open the suitcase. He just wiped Isabel's face with a warm towel and helped her into bed. As he pulled the covers over her, she mumbled a few protests, insisting she wasn't drunk and didn't want to sleep yet. But after a couple of weak struggles, she fell silent, her breathing quickly evening out into a steady rhythm. Leo let out a wry smile. Such a lightweight, and you still dare to drink so much of that homemade stuff. It goes down easy, but the kick is just as bad as any store-bought liquor. Once he was sure she was asleep, he went to the bathroom and splashed some water on his face. He stood by the window, watching the few remaining students still slumped over the tables outside. He figured a good portion of the group wouldn't be making it on the hike tomorrow morning. It wasn't even midnight yet, and Leo wasn't tired. He had been so busy peeling shrimp for Isabel and playing games that he hadn't eaten much. Feeling a pang of hunger, he threw on his jacket and went back outside to see if there was any food left. Downstairs, he saw Kevin, Xiong, and Miles sitting by the small pond near the lodge, both munching on grilled corn. Kevin spotted him immediately. "Leo, what are you doing back down here? Aren't you supposed to be with Isabel? She's a lightweight." Drank a little and passed out. "I didn't eat much earlier, so I came to find some food." Leo raised an eyebrow, pointing at the corn in Kevin's hand. "Where'd you get that? I could use one." "Over by the grill. The owner is still there cooking. He's got flatbreads and stuff, too." "Okay, wait for me. I'll go grab some." Leo returned with 2 ears of corn and a few other snacks, along with 3 bottles of soda. He sat down next to Kevin and Miles by the pond. "What are you two doing up so late? Where's Clara?" Kevin scratched the back of his head, looking a little sheepish. "Clara and I just have one room. She's taking a shower right now, and it felt a little awkward. So I dragged Miles out here to chat for a bit. I'll go up after she's done." Leo smirked. "You two have been together this long, and you've never slept in the same room." Kevin just smiled sheepishly and didn't answer. Leo didn't press the issue. It was their relationship, and they could go at their own pace. Even as a good friend, it wasn't his place to say too much. He took a bite of corn and turned to Miles. "So Miles, what do you think of Jessie?" "Oh, she's really nice. Pretty, and a good personality." As soon as Jessie's name was mentioned, Miles started stammering. Leo grinned. "You want me to get her number for you from your sister-in-law? You guys played poker together in Truth or Dare. It wouldn't be weird to ask for her number now." But at Leo's words, Miles blushed and looked down. He hesitated for a moment before mumbling, "Leo, actually, while you were taking Isabel back to the room, Jessie, she asked for my number first. We're already friends online." "Whoa," Leo and Kevin said in unison, staring at Miles in disbelief. "Dude, you got game. You got the girl to ask for your number," Kevin exclaimed. Miles grinned, scratching the back of his head shyly. Leo clapped him on the shoulder, genuinely pleased. "Well, in that case, I won't worry about you. Sounds like Jessie's first impression of you was a good one, or she wouldn't have made the first move. Just don't be an idiot when you text her." "Nope, boneheaded guy mistakes, okay." Yeah, don't worry, Leo. Watching you and Kevin, I've learned a lot. I'll be careful what I say." Leo nodded. The 3 of them sat by the pond, finished the food, and then got up. They had to be up early for the hike, and staying up too late would leave them exhausted. They said their goodbyes and headed back to their respective rooms. The next morning at 7, Ronan Fong was already in the courtyard, along with the students who hadn't overdone it the night before. For those who were missing, Ronan was making the rounds, calling to wake them up. Just as Leo had predicted, many of them had drunk too much. Several answered the phone complaining of splitting headaches, saying there was no way they could get out of bed. In the end, out of the original 45 people, only 33 showed up. "I knew I shouldn't have let everyone drink that homemade wine. We're missing more than 10 people. Damn it," Ronan sighed. Just then, Leo and Isabel, having finished breakfast, walked over. Hearing Ronan's lament, Leo clapped him on the shoulder. "It's fine. They knew what they were getting into when they were drinking. They probably figured they wouldn't have the energy to hike today, anyway. The ones who kept drinking already decided the hike was optional. They won't have any regrets when they wake up. Don't worry about it." "I guess you're right. But it feels weird with a dozen people missing, since we all agreed to come," Ronan said, shaking his head. "Well, this is how it is. Let's just wait for those 3 uncles. Once they're here, we can head out." Leo nodded, then turned to Isabel. "Is your head still hurting?" "It's fine now. You're not allowed to drink anymore," he scolded lightly. "You have no tolerance, and yet you were just chugging it down." Isabel pouted, offering a defense that was both illogical and completely effective. "Well, you were there, weren't you? No matter how drunk I get, you can always take me home." Faced with her adorable, evasive pout, the words died on his lips. He just shook his head helplessly and checked the contents of his backpack one last time. Once they were on the mountain, there would be no running to a store for anything they forgot. Isabel noticed a folding knife in his bag. "Leo, why did you bring a knife?" "Ned Neil lent it to me. Just for fun." "Ned Neil lent it to me. Just for fun." Isabel nodded at Leo's explanation. She didn't get to see things like folding knives very often. She took it from him, turning it over in her hands with interest. Thinking it looked cool, she even had Haley Xia snap a few pictures of her holding it. Just before 8, Frank, Bishop, Sal, and Shane finally emerged from their cabin, carrying hiking packs. Ronan immediately waved them over. "Uncle Frank, over here." The 3 men approached the group, did a quick head count, and smiled faintly. "Is everyone here?" Frank asked. "If so, we can get started. The sun's not too strong yet, so we can make better time. It'll get hot around noon, which will slow us down." Ronan nodded. "Yep, everyone's here. The rest of them drank a bit too much last night, so they're not hiking today. We're not waiting for them." "All right then. I'll take the lead. I'll have my 2 brothers flank the group and bring up the rear. You keep an eye out and make sure none of your classmates fall behind. The signal is spotty in the mountains, so it's a pain to call someone if they get separated." With that, Frank, lighting a cigarette as he went, started up the trail behind the village. The group of students from the finance department followed, a long, winding procession heading into the mountains. The morning air in the mountains was cool and misty. A short-sleeved shirt wasn't enough to ward off the chill. Leo, having anticipated this, had brought a windbreaker and helped Isabel put it on so she wouldn't get cold. Seeing this, the other couples in the group followed his lead, draping jackets over their girlfriends' shoulders. Walking beside them, Miles looked at Jessie, hesitating. He wanted to offer her his jacket, but he hadn't thought to bring an extra one for her. While he was debating, Jessie smiled at him, slipped off her own backpack, and pulled out a jacket. "You don't have to give me yours," she said cheerfully. "I brought my own. You keep yours on so you don't get cold." "Oh, okay, right." Miles nodded dumbly, but he quickly recovered, his eyes scanning their surroundings with renewed alertness. His primary purpose here wasn't sightseeing. It was to ensure Isabel's safety. He glanced behind them. He saw the plainclothes bodyguards, now also in windbreakers, maintaining a distance of about 100 yards. He breathed a quiet sigh of relief. While a mountain hike was generally safe, for security's sake, the guards had to come along to prevent any unexpected incidents. After about half an hour of following Frank, the path grew more difficult. The trail became rocky and uneven, and they occasionally had to cross small streams that trickled down the mountainside. No one complained. Instead, the rugged terrain seemed to energize them. Living in a modern city, this kind of wild, untamed path was a novelty that quickly overshadowed any fatigue. Phones came out as everyone started documenting the scenery. Isabel was no exception. Her eyes were wide with curiosity as she filmed their surroundings, her phone panning across the waist-high shrubs. Suddenly, she cried out and stumbled. Leo, walking beside her, caught her instantly. He saw that a dead vine had snagged her pant leg. Luckily, she was wearing long pants, so her leg wasn't scratched. "Be careful. Don't just look at your phone. Watch where you're going." Leo crouched down to untangle the vine, his fingers brushing against her ankle. The tips of Isabel's ears turned red. She took a hasty step back, her foot landing on a patch of soft, damp earth, and she nearly slipped again. Shane, walking along the side of the group, heard the commotion. He pointed to their left with his cigarette. "There's a hidden stream over there. Lots of moss, real slippery. You want to stick close to the mountain wall." Everyone took his advice, hugging the inner edge of the trail. At first, none of the students talked much with the 3 older men. The age gap felt too wide. But as they climbed, Frank and his friends pointed out potential dangers and shared local legends about the mountain, and the group slowly warmed up to them. At noon, they had passed the mountain's halfway point. Frank led them to a small clearing to rest and eat before continuing. Looking back, they could just make out Wildwood Farms and Lodge, now looking impossibly tiny far below. Frank took a swig of water, lit another cigarette, and casually asked, "So, what are you all planning to see at the summit?" People who climb this mountain either come for the sunset or the sunrise. Sunset watchers are usually pro-hikers, since it gets dark fast after the sun goes down. They can handle hiking in the dark, but you all can't. And you can't be here for the sunrise, either. You'd have to spend the night up here, and I don't see any tents or sleeping bags. The students looked at each other. The trip had been planned entirely by Ronan, so no one had worried about the details. They'd all assumed he had it figured out. Frank's question made them realize, what were they here to see? Every pair of eyes, including Leo's, turned to Ronan. Ronan blinked, then scratched his head in embarrassment. "Well, I mostly just read online that the hike itself was a great experience with all the green scenery, and that you could see a sea of clouds from the top. Other than that, I guess there's not much else." Frank nodded thoughtfully. "A sea of clouds. Yeah, that's a beautiful sight. But you have to be lucky. You don't see it every day." "What? If we don't see the clouds, does that mean we climbed all this way for nothing?" Haley complained. A murmur of disappointment spread through the group. Some started to grumble that Ronan should have done better research. Rex, ever the defender, spoke up. Hey, it's not Ronan's fault. He planned this whole trip by himself. It's normal for some details to get missed. Besides, none of us helped him or bothered to check anything beforehand. We can't just blame him now. He turned to Frank. Uncle Frank, besides the sea of clouds, is there anything else worth seeing up here? Frank chuckled. It's a mountain. What's there to see besides sunrise, sunset, and what you mentioned? The clouds. He paused as if a thought just struck him. All right, there's a shrine the three of us were heading to. That's worth a look. The fortunes they tell there are incredibly accurate. A lot of hikers go there to ask about love, careers, school, that kind of thing. If you're interested, you could go get your fortunes told. There's a shrine that accurate on this mountain. Ronan exclaimed, then turned to the group. Hey, what do you guys think? After we get to the summit this afternoon, whether there are clouds or not, we could go with Uncle Frank to check out that shrine. Get our fortunes told and everything. Yeah, if it's really that spot on, this whole trip would be totally worth it. I'm in, sounds cool. Let's do it. I need to ask for a love fortune and see when I'm finally going to get girlfriend. The idea of a magical shrine was a hit. Most of the group was immediately on board. Before Leo could even say anything, Isabel was tugging on his sleeve, her eyes screaming, take me, take me. Leo grinned, teasing her. You want to get a fortune for our long and lasting lip service? Leo. Isabel puffed out her cheeks, her voice a rare burst of indignant anger. He chuckled. Just kidding. I want to get a love fortune too. Let's go. We're already here. Zoe Chong, who was drinking water nearby, overheard them and offered a piece of advice. Leo, Isabel, if you're getting a love fortune, couples can't go in together. You have to go in separately. Leo raised an eyebrow. Why not? I don't really know the specifics. It's just something my grandparents always said. I guess it's to avoid conflict if one person gets a bad fortune. Like if the girl gets a really unlucky reading that says their relationship is doomed, both of them would feel weird. They'd think we're so in love, and I'm being completely genuine, so why did I get a bad fortune? It could make them subconsciously blame the other person, you know? So it's better not to do it together. At least go in at different times and don't see each other's results. That way, you can avoid any drama. Zoe's analysis was just her own theory, but Leo and Isabel decided it was best to respect the tradition. They could just go in one at a time. After a 30-minute break, the group followed Frank and his friends back onto the trail. The higher they climbed, the deeper into the mountain they went, and the colder it became. Even the guys who had been toughing it out in short sleeves finally gave in and pulled on their windbreakers. Around 4 in the afternoon, they finally reached the summit, and as luck would have it, a sea of clouds stretched out before them. Whoa, it's real. It looks so magical. Quick, take my picture. Dude, this is like something out of a fantasy movie. So epic. Thank God these last few hours weren't for nothing. This view is insane. Everyone scrambled to capture the moment. Isabel stood near the edge, her expression serene as she gazed at the clouds, her eyes sparkling. Her hair billowed in the wind, making her look like a goddess who had descended from the heavens. Haley, the dedicated shipper, appeared at the perfect time. Forgetting to enjoy the view herself, she raised her camera. Leo, Isabel, get together. Take off your jackets, show off the matching shirts. I need to get some pictures of you too. This backdrop is too beautiful. Okay. Isabel nodded happily and shed her jacket without hesitation, looking at Leo expectantly. Leo didn't waste any time either. The temperature at the summit was frigid. A t-shirt alone would leave you shivering in minutes. He quickly took off his jacket, wanting to get the photos over with. He and Isabel stood close together, holding hands, and struck the poses Haley directed. Click, click. The shutter fired rapidly, capturing several shots. With each one, Haley let out a cry of delight. Oh my God, this is perfect. The lighting, the view. I'm a natural-born photographer. Ha ha. Leo and Isabel peered at the camera screen and were stunned by the photos. Just then, Frank Bishop cleared his throat. Ahem, it's getting late. If you want to go to the shrine, you should pack up and get ready to leave. Ronan spoke up. Uncle Frank, we're pretty much done with pictures. We just need a few more minutes to rest, and we'll be ready to go. But Shane shook his head. That's not going to work. The path to the shrine is very narrow. We can't all go at once. It's too dangerous with a big group. Even for us, and we come here all the time, we can't guarantee everyone's safety. Frank chimed in. He's right. So here's the plan. You'll have to split into smaller groups and go in shifts. No more than 6 people per group. That's the safest way. Oh, okay, that works. Safety first, Ronan agreed. He turned to the others. All right, everyone, listen up. We need to split into groups. We can't all go to the shrine at once, so we'll go in batches. There are 33 of us, So let's make 6 groups of 5 or 6. Start figuring out your groups now. We'll leave in 5 minutes. As the students began to organize themselves, Rex walked over to Leo and Kevin with Felix in tow. He lowered his voice. Hey, Leo, you guys got a pee? I've been holding it since lunch. My bladder's about to explode. Let's go now while we have a minute. Leo paused. They still had a little time before they left. He nodded and motioned for Kevin to join them. The 4 of them found a large, secluded rock and unzipped their pants. Afterward, Rex lit a cigarette, took a long drag, and sighed contentedly. I can't even smoke around Nora. It's been killing me. Let me get one, Felix said, holding out his hand. Leo rolled his eyes. You two are that addicted? It's just, you get antsy when you don't have one. But I'm trying to quit. I have to chew gum every time I see Nora now, so she doesn't smell it on me. Leo was glad he didn't smoke. He never had to worry about smelling like an ashtray around Isabel. After the two finished their cigarettes, they headed back to the group. But when they returned, Isabel, Haley, and Miles were all gone. Leo frowned and asked Zoe Chong, who was still there, Zoe, where's Isabel and the others? Oh, Uncle Frank said he was worried it would get too late to get down the mountain, so he decided to take the first group to the shrine. Isabel and Haley went with him. Okay. Leo didn't think much of it. He figured Isabel had taken Zoe's advice about couples not getting their fortunes told together and had decided to go without him. Plus, Miles was with them, so he had nothing to worry about. He settled in with Kevin and the others to wait for their return. But after more than 15 minutes, there was still no sign of them. Leo started to get worried and asked Ronan, Hey, did Uncle Frank say how long each group would take? I didn't ask. Hold on, I'll go ask Uncle Sal and Uncle Shane. Ronan stood up to look for the other 2 men. He scanned the area, and his expression changed. Huh, where did they go? They were just over there smoking a minute ago. Leo's brow furrowed. That familiar sense of unease returned, stronger this time. Without another thought, he pulled out his phone and called Isabel. No answer. He tried twice more. Still nothing. He dialed Haley's number. Same result. A knot of panic began to form in his stomach. He quickly called Miles. We're sorry. The number you have dialed has been turned off. Please try again later. Hearing that Miles's phone was off, Leo's face drained of color. If he couldn't reach Isabel and Haley, he could rationalize it. Maybe they were taking pictures. But Miles's phone being off? That was not normal. Combined with the sudden disappearance of Sal and Shane, a horrifying thought slammed into him. His heart sank, and his pupils constricted. Oh God, no. Something's wrong. Those 3 guys are bad news. Just then, a frantic pounding of footsteps grew closer, followed by the sound of a girl sobbing. Leo spun around to see Jessie Chiao, covered in mud, stumbling toward them. She was gasping for breath, tears streaming down her face. Leo, something happened. You have to go save Isabel and Haley. Uncle Frank, I don't know what happened. He pulled out a knife. He stabbed Miles. There was so much blood. Leo, something happened. You have to go save Isabel and Haley. Uncle Frank, he pulled out a knife. He stabbed Miles. There was so much blood. Jessie's words continued in a frantic, choked sob. There were only 3 of them, and Miles reacted so fast. He pushed us into the trees. He told us all to split up, to make it harder for them to catch us. I got lucky. I just ran, and somehow ended up back on the main path. So I came back to get you. But Isabel and the others are still in there. They're being chased. Her story sent a surge of hot blood to Leo's head, and a roar filled his ears. His mind went completely blank. Frank Bishop and his men. It was a trap. From the very beginning, they were after Isabel. There was no lucky shrine. It was all a lie, a carefully constructed excuse to get them here. Even their names were probably fake. At that moment, Leo couldn't even think about how they knew he and Isabel would be here. He lunged forward and grabbed Jessie's shoulders. Where are they? Take me there now. Jessie's finger trembled as she pointed down a narrow, shadowy path. Go straight down that trail. There's a big boulder. That's where I got away. I can't take you. I fell when I was running. I twisted my ankle. They dragged Isabel and Haley deeper into the woods. Those men, they had to have been hired by Sharon Thornton. And they chose this place, the top of a mountain, isolated, no cameras, to do their work. What they planned to do to Isabel. The thought was unspeakable. A violent tremor racked Leo's body. He was paralyzed by a wave of pure, unadulterated terror. The other students finally grasped the gravity of the situation. They exchanged horrified glances, the realization dawning on them that they had just hiked up a mountain with 3 potential murderers. Some of the girls started to scream. Their first instinct was to call the police, to get off this mountain immediately. But then they remembered that their friends had been kidnapped, and they stood frozen, not knowing what to do. A few of the more rational students pulled out their phones to call for help, but after several attempts, they all came to the same conclusion. Damn it, I had a signal just a little while ago. It was weak, but it was there. Now, there's nothing. Mine too. No bars at all. What's going on? I can't make a call or connect to the internet. We're on a mountain, but we shouldn't be in a complete dead zone. Hearing this, Felix pushed up his glasses, his expression grim. If those three were planning a kidnapping from the start, then the lack of signal means they brought a jammer with them. They must have turned it on the second they showed their true colors. They're buying time, trying to delay us from calling the police. He added, but a signal jammer has a limited range. If we can get far enough away, our phones should start working again. P18.She grabbed a rock from the ground, ready to charge in. A few other guys followed his lead. In that moment of crisis, no one turned to run. Their first thought was to save their friends. But Rex stepped in front of them, his voice sharp and serious. Everybody calm down. We don't know if those three have accomplices. We don't know if they were targeting someone specific or if this was just a random attack. But they had knives and a signal jammer. This was premeditated. These are professionals, like something out of a movie. Don't underestimate them. If they were willing to make a move with this many of us around, they're not messing around. We can't just charge in there with rocks. That's a suicide mission. Plus, it's already getting cold, and it'll be dark soon. A big, disorganized group is just going to get into more trouble. He took a breath, his eyes scanning the terrified faces around him. Here's what we do. We split into two teams. Team 1. Some of the guys will escort the rest of the girls back down the mountain. The second you get a signal, you call 911 and tell them we need a mountain rescue team. This is way beyond what we can handle. Team 2. Me and Leo will go after Isabel and Haley. Anyone who wants to come with us can, but know the risk. Think carefully before you decide. Rex's sudden composure shocked Leo out of his panic. He forced himself to think. Rushing in blindly wouldn't save Isabel. It would just get him killed. And Miles was with her. Even injured, Miles was a fighter. He would do everything in his power to protect her. Jesse said they hadn't been caught yet, so as long as Miles was with her, they had a chance to hide, to stay safe. And then Leo remembered. The bodyguards. He spun around and sprinted back the way they had come. Sure enough, not far down the trail, he found the 7 bodyguards who had been resting. When they saw Leo running toward them, his face pale with panic, they immediately stood up. Mr. Yeager, what's? It's Isabel. She's been taken. Leo quickly explained the situation. The bodyguards' faces went grim. They were far enough in the main group that their phones still had a weak signal. One of them immediately made a call to the rest of the security detail, while another informed Lester and the head of security for the Thornton estate. After the calls, they followed Leo back to the group. The students were startled by the sudden appearance of the imposing men, but they quickly understood they were Isabel's security. By now, the two teams had been formed. Rex, Kevin, and 2 other guys had chosen to stay and go with Leo and the bodyguards. The rest of the group, led by Ned, Neo, and Felix, would head down the mountain. Ned, it turned out, had brought several folding knives and a multi-tool, which he distributed among the guys in the descent party. No one knew if they might run into Frank's crew on the way down. They had to be armed. Ronan suggested that a few of the bodyguards stay to protect the larger group, but the lead guard flatly refused. Their only job was to protect Isabel Thornton. Right now, no one else mattered. Frankly, not even Leo. If anything happened to her, it wouldn't just be their paychecks on the line. It would be their lives. Before the two teams split up, Rex pulled Nora aside, pressing a folding knife into her hand. His expression was dead serious. Nora, you stick close to Ned and the others. Be careful. Maybe you shouldn't. Nora hesitated, tugging on his sleeve. She was terrified for him, but Rex cut her off. No, I have to go. I might not be as close to Leo as Kevin or Miles, but we're roommates. We're brothers. He needs help right now. If I didn't go, what kind of person would I be? His voice softened, and he tried for a brave smile. Besides, your boyfriend is a total badass. I'll probably be the one to get the triple kill and save everyone. You just get down the mountain safely and wait for me to come back a hero. He gave her a quick, tight hug, then turned to Leo. Leo, it's time to go. Leo looked at Rex, his expression a mixture of gratitude and grim determination. He said nothing, just gave a sharp nod. Kevin gave Clara a hug, telling her to stay with the group, then fell in step with Leo and the bodyguards as they ran down the narrow path Frank had taken. Twilight descended, and the mountain air grew thick with the damp, loamy scent of decaying leaves. A thick mist rolled in, obscuring their vision. Leo ran at the front of the group, his hand clamped tightly around the folding knife Ned and Neo had lent him back at the dorm. He borrowed it just for fun, never imagining it would come to this. Rex, glancing at the bodyguards who were expertly scanning their surroundings, lowered his voice. Leo, those guys. They were after Isabel. Almost certainly. Your uncle is Mr. Chun, so you must have heard about Isabel's dad's trial. The timing is too perfect. Sharon Thornton is getting desperate. Leo practically spat Sharon's name, his voice a low growl. His eyes were bloodshot. If she were standing in front of him right now, he would not hesitate to drive the knife into her gut. The woman was completely insane. To actually hire hitmen in this day and age. Kevin put a hand on Leo's shoulder, feeling the tremors running through his body. Leo, calm down. You can't panic now. You and I both know what Miles is capable of. As long as he's with her, they have a chance. I'm just worried he was hurt badly, Leo said, his voice tight. Those guys went straight for a knife. They're professionals. They soon reached the clearing with a large boulder that Jesse had described. And there, on the ground, was a small, dark patch of blood. It had to be Miles's. From this point, the path split into 4 different directions. The lead bodyguard made a quick decision. Mr. Yeager, we don't know which way they went. We have to split up. Leo nodded. Okay, there are 16 of us. For groups of 4. They divided the teams to balance them out. Leo and Rex went with 2 bodyguards, Kevin went with 3, and the other 2 students who had stayed behind each went with 2 guards. It was the only way to ensure each group had a fighting chance if they ran into Frank and his men. Leo, Kevin said before they split, the signal should come back once we get further in. The second you find Miles, call me. I'll come running. We have to get Isabel back, but Miles can't be left behind either. His grandparents are waiting for him back home. We can't let anything happen to him. I know. You do the same. If you find them first, call me immediately. The 4 teams exchanged numbers and then disappeared down their respective paths. Leo's group hadn't gone far when Rex, who was walking just ahead, tripped on something hard and yelled for them to stop. They all looked down. It was Haley's camera. The lens was smeared with fresh blood, and the screen showed the last picture she had taken, a blurry, terrified close-up of her own face. A surge of hope, grim as it was, shot through Leo. Haley must have dropped this. If Jesse was right, and only Miles was stabbed, then this is his blood. They came this way. Let's go, hurry. The sky was darkening rapidly, and they were now far off any semblance of a trail. The path, if it could even be called that, was a chaotic tangle of thorny bushes and treacherous rocks. Their progress slowed to a crawl. A new fear began to creep into Leo's mind. Even if Miles was a skilled fighter, this was the wilderness. Leo had seen enough news stories about hikers falling off cliffs or getting lost in the mountains. Now, Miles and the others weren't just trying to evade their pursuers. They were also trying to find their way back down a mountain they didn't know, in the dark, without being able to use flashlights for fear of being seen. The danger was escalating with every passing second. Leo's face grew paler. One of the bodyguards spoke, his voice calm and steady. Mr. Yeager, try not to worry too much. When we contacted the rest of the team, they had already alerted the police. They also informed Mr. Yearwood and the head of estate security. It won't be long before the police and other rescue teams are on this mountain. Good. That's good, Leo muttered, more to himself than anyone else. She's going to be okay. She has to be okay. But the words did little to quell the storm of regret and panic raging inside him. He cursed himself for not trusting his gut feeling about those men last night. An image of Isabel, smiling in her matching shirt as she leaned against his shoulder for a picture, flashed in his mind. The memory was a physical blow, a sharp, twisting pain in his chest. Suddenly, a scream ripped through the silent forest. A flock of birds burst from the trees, scattering into the twilight sky. Leo sucked in a sharp breath. That way, to the right. The ragged sound of panting filled the darkening woods. Guys, let's stop for a second, Haley Xia gasped, clutching a sharp stitch in her side. I can't run anymore. Her jeans were shredded, torn by rocks and thorns, revealing angry red scratches on her pale skin. Beside her, Isabel Thornton wasn't faring much better, her chest heaving with every desperate breath. Seeing them at their limit, Miles's expression hardened. He clutched his left arm, where Frank Bishop's knife had sliced through his jacket. Blood dripped steadily from his fingertips, and a sharp, throbbing pain pulsed through him, making the veins in his arm stand out. Despite the agony, he forced the words out. Isabel, Haley, we can't stop. They're right behind us, and they know this mountain. They've scouted it. If we stop, they'll find us in minutes. It's getting dark, which means we have to put as much distance between us as possible while we can still see. Once it's fully dark, they can use flashlights. We can't. We'd give away our position instantly. Isabel knew he was right. She'd seen the dead-eyed look on Frank Bishop's face as he'd swung that knife at Miles. If Miles hadn't reacted in a split second, that blade wouldn't have hit his arm. The angle, it had been aimed straight at his head. She swallowed, her throat as dry and raw as sandpaper. Before they'd started this disastrous hike, she put everything in Leo's backpack. She had nothing. Miles saw her distress and pulled the last water bottle from his pack, offering it to them. Here, take a sip. We have to keep moving. This was no time for pride. Isabel passed the bottle to Haley first, who took a few desperate gulps. Then Isabel took the smallest sip herself before handing it back to Miles. You too, Miles. He hesitated. I'm fine, Isabel. You guys drink it. Let's go. Isabel's face grew stern. Miles, now is not the time to worry about sharing a water bottle. If you run out of steam, we're all caught. The fire in his throat was undeniable. Reluctantly, he took the bottle, and without touching his lips to the rim, tilted his head back and drank deeply. Then he grabbed both their arms and pulled them forward. Haley had never been in a situation like this, hunted by men who seemed to have no reservations about killing them. Her face was chalky with fear. She was just a college student. She knew she couldn't be the weak link, but tears started streaming down her face anyway. Isabel, who are they? They're trying to kill us, aren't they? I'm so sorry, Haley. They're after me. You got dragged into this because of me, Isabel said, her voice tight with guilt. Just keep moving. A little longer. Leo will realize something's wrong. He'll call the police. My bodyguard are back there somewhere, too. They'll find us. We'll get home safe. Haley wiped her eyes and nodded, forcing her legs to move. But 2 steps later, her foot slipped on a loose patch of dirt. She tumbled sideways, rolling twice before her body slammed against a large rock. A sharp, piercing scream tore from her lungs as her lower back connected with the stone's jagged edge. In the trees above, a flurry of birds took flight. Haley, are you okay? Isabel skidded to a halt, about to scramble down into the shallow ditch Haley had fallen into. But Haley, gritting her teeth against the pain, waved her off. Isabel, Miles. Just go. My back. I can't move. It hurts so much. She reached a hand back to feel the spot, and when she brought it away, it was covered in blood. A fresh wave of terrified sobs racked her body. Isabel's face went white. After a moment of stunned horror, she started to go to Haley anyway, but Miles's hand shot out, grabbing her arm in a vice-like grip. Isabel, no, he said, his voice low and urgent. They heard that scream. They'll be on us any second. We have to go. Now. Isabel stared at him, her eyes welling up. What about Haley? Miles's face was a mask of conflict, but he forced himself to say it. You're their target. Even if they find her, they won't waste time on her. We have to move. Down in the ditch, Haley's eyes were wide with terror, but her voice was surprisingly steady. He's right, Isabel. Go. Even if you pull me out, I can't run. It's better they get one of us than all 3. Go. That broke Isabel. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she shook her head, refusing to leave her friend. Miles knew that if they hesitated any longer, it would be too late for all of them. He acted fast, ripping large leaves from the surrounding bushes and piling them over Haley. Haley, stay in this ditch and don't make a sound, he commanded. These leaves will cover you. In this light, they might not see you. If you see Leo and the others, tell him this. When they get to a fork in the path, I'm going to leave a blood trail down one way to mislead them. I'm taking Isabel down the other path. Make sure he doesn't follow the wrong one. Okay, go. Hurry. Haley nodded, pulling the leaves over herself as best she could. Just then, the sound of rustling came from the woods not far away. Miles's face drained of color. Isabel, they're here. We have to go. Isabel looked from the shallow grave of leaves where her friend was hiding to the deep, dark woods ahead. Her face was a portrait of anguish. Finally, logic won out over loyalty. With a choked, I'm sorry, she turned and fled with Miles deeper into the mountain. Not 5 minutes later, Frank Bishop, Shane, and Sal appeared where they had been standing. Shane spotted the fresh blood on the ground. He knelt and touched it. Boss, the blood's still wet. They just left, he reported. That kid's bleeding all over the place. He won't last much longer. Frank Bishop sneered. Good. I already had Trey wait up ahead. Once they pass him, he'll spot them. Let's move. If we hit a fork, we split up. When you find them, don't hesitate. Finish it. Those other brats should be out of the jammer's range by now. They've probably already called the cops. With that, the 3 men, knives in hand, plunged into the forest, following the trail. Once they were gone, Haley finally dared to breathe again, her expression even more horrified than before. They have more than 3 people. Just then, another set of urgent footsteps crashed through the undergrowth. Haley heard a familiar voice. Hope surged through her, and she yelled, "Leo? Is that you, Leo?" Moments later, Leo and the others found her in the ditch. Seeing her friends, Haley finally broke down completely. "Leo," she sobbed, "you have to hurry. There are more of them. They're right behind Isabel and Miles." Leo stared at Haley, lying broken in the ditch, the back of her jacket soaked a terrifying dark red. His face became a grim mask. As much as he wanted to sprint after Isabel, he couldn't leave Haley like this. He jumped down beside her, taking the first aid kit from one of the bodyguards who had followed him. "Don't move. I'm going to patch you up. This might hurt." He carefully unzipped her jacket. The gash across her lower back was long and deep, a sickening sight against her skin. Beside the ditch, Rex Gao sucked in a breath and instinctively touched his own back. "Ugh." P18. Haley let out a muffled groan, cold sweat pouring down her forehead. She took several ragged breaths to keep from passing out. She grabbed Leo's shirt, her voice urgent as she relayed Miles's message. "Leo, before they left, Miles said if you came looking, he'd create a fake blood trail at the next fork in the path to trick them. He's taking Isabel down the other trail. Don't get it wrong." She paused, her voice growing even more frantic. "Never mind me. Just leave the kit and go. Miles's arm is cut. He's losing blood, and they have no water. They can't have gotten far. Frank Bishop has more than 3 guys. There's another one waiting in ambush up ahead. If Isabel and Miles run into him, they're really in danger." The news of a 4th accomplice made Leo's blood run cold. He knew he couldn't waste another second. He looked up at one of the bodyguards. "One of you stay with her until the police or a rescue team gets here. It's getting cold. We can't just leave her." "Apologies, Mr. Yeager," the bodyguard said, his tone flat and professional. "We can leave some medical supplies, but we cannot stay. Our duty is to protect Miss Thornton. Under these circumstances, we cannot follow your order to remain here." Without another word, the 2 bodyguards took out their phones, informing the rest of their team that they had found Isabel's trail and to converge on their position. Then, they prepared to move on. "She's a human being. Are you just going to leave her here to die?" "Shit." Leo swore, but he knew they were technically right. They had no connection to Haley. Their protocol was absolute. Just then, Rex clapped him on the shoulder. "Leo, you go with them. I'll stay with Haley. I can't keep up with you guys anyway. I just slow you down. I'll carry her back and find the rescue team." Leo hesitated for only a fraction of a second before nodding. "Okay, she's in your hands." Every second wasted put Isabel in greater peril. He left the first aid kit with Rex and scrambled out of the ditch, catching up to the bodyguards. He was profoundly grateful for the gym membership he'd bought 2 weeks ago. It hadn't turned him into an athlete, but the old him would have collapsed by now, just like Rex. They hadn't gone far before one of the bodyguards stopped, his expression grim. "Mr. Yeager, I think we're lost." The other added, "The woods are too thick in here. Too many ravines. We can no longer be certain which direction they went." Leo froze. It hit him then. It wasn't just him. These bodyguards had no wilderness experience. They were trained for urban environments, for physical threats, not for tracking in a forest at night. They had been running blindly. Gritting his teeth, Leo made a decision. "Then we split up. The area can't be that big. We take 3 different paths. One of us has to find them." The bodyguard protested. "Sir, splitting up increases our chances of finding them, but it also means we'll be alone if we run into the assailants. Even for us, taking on 3 armed men alone is almost impossible. The safest course of action is to wait for the rest of our team. Forget safe, find Isabel." Leo's voice was raw, his eyes bloodshot. "The rest of your team is at least 10 minutes out. Can either of you guarantee she'll be safe for 10 more minutes?" He was past caring about protocol. "I'll take the middle path," he declared. "You 2 take the sides. If you see anything, call the others to your position." Without waiting for a reply, Leo shrugged off his backpack to move faster, leaving everything but the folding knife Ned had given him. He gripped it tightly and plunged into the tangled wilderness. The last vestiges of light had vanished. Isabel didn't see the rock half hidden in the shadows. Her foot landed on it awkwardly, and her ankle twisted outward with a sickening pop. A cry of pain escaped her lips as she crumpled to the ground. "Isabel, are you okay?" Miles spun around to see her clutching her right ankle, her face contorted in agony. I'm fine. Just a sprain." She bit her lip, trying to stand and push through the pain. But the moment she put weight on it, a searing electric shock shot up her leg. Her knee buckled, and she nearly collapsed again. Miles caught her, and in the faint moonlight filtering through the canopy, he saw it. Her ankle was already swelling, a dark, purplish bruise forming under the skin. He knew instantly. Their running was over. His mind raced. "Isabel," he said, his voice heavy with resolve, "we can't run anymore. We'll never make it. We stop here. I'll find a place to hide you. It's dark now, so they'll probably split up to search. If I get a chance, I'm going to take them on. If I can take one of them out, our chances get better." He pressed a can of pepper spray into her hand. "Take this. If they find you, spray them right in the face. It'll blind them for at least 10 minutes. Isabel grabbed his arm, her eyes wide with fear. "Miles, no. It's too dangerous for you to go alone. Hide with me. There's no time to find a place that can hide both of us perfectly. And they're not stupid. If I don't create a diversion, they'll know we're hiding nearby and search until they find us." He wiped the sweat from his face and offered a weak, reassuring smile. "Don't worry, Isabel. I promise, Leo. As long as I'm alive, I won't let anything happen to you." Miles found a large, fallen tree and helped Isabel squeeze into the tight, triangular space between it and a living one. With a grunt of effort, he dragged a heavy rock to partially block the opening. If she curled up tightly inside, anyone passing by without looking closely would miss her. He handed her the half-empty bottle of water. "Isabel, hide in here," he said, his voice deadly serious. "No matter what you hear, do not come out. That signal jammer is on one of them. The second your phone gets a signal, it means they're gone. Call Leo, and don't come out until he gets here." He quickly ripped a strip of cloth from his shirt and used it to tie his knife securely to his right hand, ensuring he wouldn't lose his grip in a fight. In his left, he clutched a fist-sized rock. "I'm going now, Isabel. If someone comes this way, I'll draw them off. Don't make a sound." Isabel understood the lethal risk he was taking. Tears welled in her eyes. "Miles," she choked out, "you don't have to do this for me. I'm her only target. If you run, you can get away." "Don't say that. If I left you here and ran, how could I ever face Leo again? Besides, you pay me a fortune, and you got the best doctors for my grandfather. Without you and Leo, I'm not the kind of person who forgets a debt, Isabel." Before she could say more, a rustling sound came from the direction they'd come. Miles's face went rigid. He pressed a hand over her mouth and mouthed the words, "I'm going." Then, he backed away, melting into the shadows. As he disappeared, the moonlight caught the tears in Isabel's eyes, making them glitter like two lakes about to overflow. Less than 5 minutes later, the bushes ahead shook violently. A dark figure emerged, a bright flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. Hiding under the tree, Isabel's eyes went wide. It was Sal. He held a flashlight in one hand and a gleaming knife in the other, moving with a practiced, tactical slowness. The cold light glinted off the blade, and Isabel clamped her hand over her mouth, holding her breath. Her heart hammered against her ribs, so loud she was terrified he would hear it. Sal scanned the area, his light passing right over her hiding spot. After a moment, he seemed satisfied and started to move on. Isabel waited for what felt like an eternity before daring to release her breath in a silent sigh of relief. The next second, Sal's head appeared directly above her. "Found you!" A scream tore from Isabel's throat. As his hand reached for her, there was a sudden thud, and he tumbled from the log above, landing in a heap on the ground. His flashlight rolled away, its beam dancing crazily across the trees. Before Isabel could process what had happened, another shadow launched itself from the side, landing on top of Sal. "Miles!" she cried out instinctively. Miles had no time to respond. He brought the rock in his hand down hard, aiming for Sal's head. But Sal twisted away, and the rock glanced off the dirt. Sal used the momentum to roll out from under him and scramble to his feet, kicking a spray of loose stones as he darted into a thicket of low bushes. Miles was on him in an instant, knife in hand. A moment later, a man's rough voice echoed through the trees. "Shit, you trying to kill me, you little bastard?" Miles's knife had found its mark in Sal's thigh. As Sal cried out in pain, Miles hurled a rock. It caught Sal square in the face. Before he could recover from the stunning blow, Miles's knife flashed, piercing Sal's wrist. Sal's own knife clattered to the ground. Miles followed up with a powerful roundhouse kick to Sal's side, sending him staggering. "Damn it, you fight dirtier than I do." Sal cursed. Realizing he was outmatched, he opened his mouth to shout, "Boss! 6! Overheat!" His words were cut off as Miles slid in low, wrapping an arm around his neck in a perfect rear-naked choke. "Oh fuck," Sal thought as the world began to go dark. He clawed desperately at Miles's arm, knowing he only had seconds before he passed out. His neck bulged with veins, and a dying gurgle escaped his throat as his fingers dug into Miles's flesh. But Miles had gone feral. He poured every ounce of his remaining strength into the chokehold. Sal's struggles grew weaker. He was about to lose consciousness. Just then, the sound of snapping branches and hurried footsteps came from the edge of the clearing. A knot of dread tightened in Miles's stomach. He squeezed harder, but a split second later, a dark shape slammed into his back. It was Shane, the one they called Six. A hunting knife glinted in his hand, aimed directly at Miles's spine. At the last possible moment, Miles was forced to release Sal, rolling hard to the side. The hunting knife buried itself in the ground where his chest had been. A sudden coldness brushed past his head, followed by a wet, warm sensation on the side of his neck. He felt no pain at first, but when he reached up to touch his left ear, his hand came away slick with blood. There was nothing there. My ear. Miles's voice trembled. He sucked in a breath, trying to hold back the tears, and instinctively scooped up a handful of dirt, pressing it against the wound to staunch the bleeding. The searing pain finally hit, and tears streamed down his face. But his eyes never left the two men in front of him. Even Shane flinched at the sight. Damn, kid, you're one tough son of a bitch. Freed from the choke, Sal was on his knees, coughing and gasping for air. Shane let out a cruel laugh. 5. You can't even handle one little punk? Pathetic. You shut the hell up, Sal rasped between coughs. You kill him. The kid knows how to fight. It's all street fighting wild shit. You can't predict what he's gonna do. Sal was still shaken. If Shane had been a few seconds later, he'd have been choked out for good. Shane grunted and lunged at Miles, knife raised. Miles saw his chance. He flung the remaining dirt from his hand into Shane's face. Shane hadn't expected it and reflexively threw up an arm to shield his eyes. In that instant of hesitation, Miles charged, tackling Shane to the ground. They became a tangle of limbs, rolling over and over through the dirt and leaves. They were less than 10 feet from the edge of a cliff when Miles, gritting his teeth, plunged his knife into Shane's stomach. Ack fuck! Shane roared in pain, swinging his own knife wildly at Miles's face. But Miles was already rolling back, scrambling to his feet to deliver a vicious kick to Shane's head. Shane's eyes went glassy, and his body slid uncontrollably toward the cliff's edge. He flailed, his hand closing around a small shrub, his legs dangling over the abyss. But the small plant couldn't hold his weight. With a sickening rip, it came out of the ground, roots and all. Shane's desperate scream echoed through the mountain valley as he fell. Seconds later, there was a dull, heavy thud. One more down. But before Miles could even catch his breath, a sharp elbow caught him in the face. A supernova of white stars exploded behind his eyes, and warm blood gushed from his nose. He staggered back, his spine slamming against a tree trunk with a bone-jarring impact. He barely suppressed a groan of agony. He looked up just in time to see Sal charging, knife in hand, his face a mask of insane rage. You kill my brother, you piece of shit. I'm gonna cut you into 1,000 pieces. Sal was on him. Miles twisted to the side, but the pain made him slow. The knife sank into his right shoulder. Sal twisted the blade, grinding it into muscle and bone. Arg! A raw scream of agony was ripped from Miles's throat. The pain was so intense he nearly blacked out. But Sal wasn't done. He yanked the knife free and lunged again, this time aiming for Miles's heart. Miles's body shook, but he managed to get his hands up, grabbing Sal's wrist. He was pinned, however, and Sal had the leverage. Even as he fought, Miles could only watch in horror as the point of the knife crept closer and closer to his chest. The sight of his own impending death, the phantom pain where his ear used to be, it finally broke him. Tears streamed down his face as he resisted, the knife now less than 2 inches from his heart. His voice was a shredded, hysterical cry. Leo, Kevin, where are you? Why aren't you here yet? I can't beat him. I can't do it, guys. In that final, desperate moment, with the tip of the blade about to pierce his chest, a stumbling shadow emerged from behind Sal. Isabel, forcing herself to move, had lifted a heavy rock from the ground with all her might. Ignoring the fire in her own ankle, she took 2 hobbling steps and brought it crashing down on the back of Sal's head. Hiya, she cried, and the rock connected with a sickening crunch. Sal's body went rigid. His eyes rolled back in his head, and he collapsed on top of Miles, his limbs twitching. Warm blood poured from his wound, soaking Miles's shirt. Miles, fighting through the pain, shoved Sal's body off him and struggled to sit up. Sal was still alive, but barely, convulsing on the ground. Miles! Isabel threw the rock aside and limped toward him, her face streaked with tears. Miles, are you okay? When she got closer, she saw the full extent of the damage. His face was a mask of blood, his nose clearly broken, caved in at the bridge. But the most horrifying sight was the empty, mangled space where his left ear should have been, now a grotesque mess of blood and dirt. She helped him up, her hands trembling, tears flowing freely. "Miles, your ear." He was breathing in ragged gasps, his voice weak, but he managed a faint smile. "Isabel, why did you come out? Too dangerous. But good timing. You saved my life." "Huh, it's okay," he wheezed. "Just a few more scars. Nothing fatal. A little time in the hospital, and I'll be fine." He forced himself to focus. "Isabel, we have to go. There's still one more. If he comes." His words were cut short by the sound of hurried footsteps crashing through the woods. The faces of both Miles and Isabel went pale with terror. Frank Bishop appeared, a machete in his hand. He saw Sal twitching in a pool of blood, then glanced at the uprooted shrubbery near the cliff's edge. His face turned thunderous. "You son of a bitch," he snarled, his eyes locking on Miles. "You took out 2 of my men. You're more deserving of death than the girl." Without hesitation, Frank dropped the backpack containing the signal jammer. He was seeing red. He charged straight for Miles and Isabel, his machete raised. Miles reacted instantly, shoving Isabel behind him. The blade plunged into his abdomen with a wet, sickening sound. "Miles!" Isabel shrieked, catching his collapsing body. Frank tried to pull the machete out to go after Isabel, but Miles, with his last ounce of strength, clamped his hand around Frank's wrist and slammed his forehead into the bigger man's face. Crack! The impact made Frank stumble back, almost dropping his weapon. "You little bastard," he roared. As he reached for another knife at his waist, a blur of motion came from the side. Frank instinctively dodged. A small knife whistled past his neck and embedded itself in the dirt. He turned to see Leo, roaring like a cornered animal, launching himself forward. He tackled Frank, knocking him to the ground, and began raining down furious, clumsy punches on his face. The sight of Leo sent a jolt through Isabel, and her tears fell anew. Frank, though stunned, was a seasoned fighter. After a moment, he bucked his hips, sending the untrained Leo flying off him. He scrambled for the dropped knife. Leo knew he was outmatched. "Shit!" he yelled and dove forward, wrapping his arms around Frank's legs. Frank crashed to the ground again, dazed. "Miles now!" Leo screamed. "Get the knife. Stab him." Miles pushed himself up, his face a deathly white. He gritted his teeth and pulled the machete from his own stomach. He took one step and collapsed, but he kept crawling, dragging himself forward until he could plunge the blade deep into Frank Bishop's back. A deafening roar of agony erupted from Frank as his body went rigid. He clawed at his back, unable to reach the handle, writhing on the ground in torment. Leo saw his opening. He threw himself on top of Frank again, and this time he landed a solid punch directly on Frank's temple. Frank grunted, his eyes rolled back, and he went limp. It was over. Huh. Leo lay on the ground, gasping for air. He barely had a moment to recover before Isabel's frantic sobs pulled him back. She had torn off her own jacket, pressing it against the gushing wound in Miles's abdomen. "Leo, quick, call for help. Call an ambulance. Miles, he's not going to make it." Leo's head snapped up. He saw Miles, lying in the dirt, covered in blood and mud, his body trembling faintly. The blood just kept coming. Leo stared, then remembered the jammer. He grabbed it and hurled it over the cliff. He fumbled for his phone and called Rex. "Get them here now," he screamed into the phone. "The northwest trail from where we split. I found them. Hurry." He dropped the phone and scrambled to Miles's side, gathering him into his arms. "Miles, hang on. Just hang on. Help is on the way." Miles's face was bloodless, but when he saw Leo, a ghost of a smile touched his lips. His voice was a faint, wavering whisper. "Leo, I didn't let you down. I kept Isabel safe." I know. Just hang on, Miles. Don't you dare leave." He coughed, his lips cracking. "Hey, Leo, I took on 3 of them. Was I cool?" Tears streamed down Leo's face. He clutched Miles's bloody hand, his throat tight. "You weren't just cool, Miles. You're a real man. You're the bravest person in the world. Don't be selfish. Don't leave me and Kevin. Don't you leave us." Surprisingly, the tough kid who hadn't cried yet, the one who had just fought 3 men to the death, finally broke at the words "a real man." His expression crumpled, and tears rolled from his eyes. He started sobbing. "Leo, I'm not a real man. It hurts. It hurts so much. I don't want to die. What about my grandparents? They're waiting for me. Leo, I've never even had a girlfriend. I wanted one like Isabel. I got Jessie Chiao's number. I wanted to tell her." Leo was choking on his own sobs. "The ambulance is almost here. When you get better, I'll help you talk to Jessie. I'll help you win her over. If you don't like her, I'll help you find someone else. Pretty, kind, thoughtful. You can have your pick. Any girl you want. I'll help you." Leo. Miles started, but a mouthful of blood choked him, spraying across Leo's face. He raised a trembling hand to wipe it away. His smile faded, and he was crying again. Leo, I wish we were back in middle school. You, me, and Kevin. We. It was so good. With those final words, his hand fell limp. His short life was over. The wind howled along the cliff, whipping dead leaves around them. Leo could no longer contain his grief. He knelt in the dirt, clutching Miles's body, his own body shaking with sobs. He couldn't see his friend's face clearly anymore, couldn't hear his breath. Miles's name meant white, but all he could see was the gray mud and the crimson blood. Miles! Miles! Even with Isabel trying to comfort him, his heart-wrenching cries echoed through the silent mountains, until he had no breath left, until his lungs burned, until he collapsed, with no strength left to even stand. Leo's fingers were still clenched around the bloody fabric of Miles's shirt, his nails caked with dried blood. The warmth was already fading from the body in his arms, as if the last traces of his friend were vanishing from the world. He felt dizzy, a wave of nausea washing over him. Miles, he whispered, his mind a slideshow of memories. Middle school, the three of them, him, Miles, and Kevin, laughing without a care in the world. It felt like yesterday. Miles was still that quiet, skinny kid, shy about so many things. For Miles, middle school had been the defining time. But for Leo, the sharpest memory was from the beginning of high school. He'd come to Crestview alone, renting a cheap room off campus, so he could work odd jobs on weekends with Miles to make ends meet. He remembered one winter. His stamina was nothing compared to Miles, who had come from school with martial arts training. They just finished a brutal all-night shift at a package sorting facility. It was 6 in the morning, snowing heavily, and Leo's entire body ached. He sat on the factory steps, cold, exhausted, his back in so much pain he could barely straighten up. Miles had grinned at him. Leo, if you can't walk, I'll carry you to the bus stop. It's only a few hundred yards. No, I'm good. Just need to rest a minute. Don't be like that. Next time I'm this wiped, you can carry me. Come on, let's go home. My treat, soup dumplings. Then we can crash before we have to come back tonight. Before Leo could refuse again, Miles had hefted him onto his back. Miles, barely 5'7", carried Leo, who was over 6 feet, without a hint of strain. His boots crunched in the snow. Man, it'd be nice to make real money someday, Miles had said. If I could make $1,000 a week, I'd never work a night shift again. This sucks. Don't worry, Leo had replied. The three of us will make it. $1,000 a week? Think bigger. $10,000 a week. They had both laughed, knowing how impossible it sounded. That day, Miles had carried him all the way to the bus stop. Leo would never forget it. He'd always assumed Miles's fierce loyalty was just gratitude for helping his grandfather. But now, looking back, he realized it was so much more. Miles had seen him as a brother long before that. The favor had just given him an excuse to say it out loud. Even if Leo had done nothing, Miles still would have died for him. For Isabel. Miles! Leo's chest felt like it was being crushed. We have money now. Why can't you wake up? You were never supposed to have to work another night shift again. A sob from behind him, from Isabel, pulled him from his daze. He turned, his knee cracking against a sharp rock, the pain a dull thud that was nothing compared to the agony in his heart. Isabel was sitting on the ground, her face pale and tear-stained, her right foot twisted at an unnatural angle. Leo wiped his own tears, his voice a raw rasp. How bad is it? I'm okay, she whispered, shaking her head, her own heart aching for Miles. Just a sprained ankle. If it hadn't been for her, he wouldn't have been hurt. He wouldn't be gone. She bit her lip and tried to lean against Leo, but as she moved, a fresh wave of pain shot through her ankle, and she gasped, sweat beading on her forehead. Leo immediately knelt to examine it. Her ankle was horribly swollen, a deep, angry purple. Don't try to walk on it, he said, his voice gentle. You could cause permanent damage. I'll carry you. He turned and crouched, letting her wrap her arms around his neck. They could have waited for the rescue team, but the place was a charnel house, thick with the coppery smell of blood. The bodies of Sal and Frank lay nearby. He had to get Isabel away. Then he would come back for Miles. As Isabel rested her head against his back, the familiar scent of him finally allowed the tension that had held her together to snap. A fresh wave of sobs shook her body, her hot tears falling onto his neck. Leo, I'm so sorry. If it wasn't for me, Miles wouldn't have. I killed him. Leo's lips trembled, but he forced a steady tone. Don't say that. It's not your fault. Sharon hired these men. If it weren't for them, for her, none of this would have happened. This is all on them. Isabel's brow furrowed in confusion. Leo, Did you see anyone else on your way up here? Miles and I. We only saw those three. A cold mountain wind rustled the dead leaves around them. Leo stopped dead in his tracks. A prickling sensation crawled up his spine, making the hairs on his arms stand on end. Oh God. In the chaos, he'd forgotten. Haley's warning. There was a fourth man. An ambush. Waiting right in this area. His heart pounded. Shit, he said, his voice suddenly urgent. I ran into Haley on the way up. She said she overheard them talking about an accomplice who was already hiding on a mountain. If Miles only took out 3, that means there's still one more out there. All this noise. He definitely heard it. We're not safe. We have to get out of here now. He was about to break into a run when the sharp crack of a gunshot ripped through the night. The bullet hissed past Leo's head. Pure instinct made him dive to the side, and Isabel cried out as she tumbled from his back. Before he could even turn, a deep, gravelly voice boomed from the darkness behind him. Don't fucking move. On your knees. Hands in the air. Turn around. Slow. You heard me. I've got a gun. The voice sent a fresh wave of terror through Leo. This was the fourth man, but the sound, he'd heard it somewhere before. Though he found it hard to believe someone would have a gun. They were so strictly controlled, he didn't dare risk it. That object had flown past his head with impossible speed. He did as he was told, slowly kneeling, raising his hands, and turning. His eyes immediately found Isabel, sitting on the ground, a look of pure, unadulterated terror on her face. He followed her gaze, and his blood ran cold. Not 15 feet away stood a broad, heavy-set man. In his hands was a matte black object. As Leo's eyes focused, he recognized the unmistakable silhouette of a handgun, the trigger guard, the grip. It was a real gun, and its dark, hollow barrel was pointed right at them. But the most shocking thing was the man holding it. Leo had seen him before. It was the guy who had been peering into his new Land Rover when he'd first parked it on campus. So, it hadn't been a curious admirer. He had been under surveillance. A sickening dread washed over him. If only he had been more vigilant, more suspicious. Maybe he could have uncovered Sharon's plot sooner. Maybe Miles would still be alive. The fourth man, Larry, saw that Leo had complied. He strode forward, pressing the cold muzzle of the gun against Leo's forehead, a vicious grin spreading across his face. Leo tried to speak, but this was the first time he had ever seen a real gun, let alone had one pressed to his head. A primal fear seized him, turning his mind to static. His body trembled uncontrollably. Isabel was in the same state, paralyzed by shock. Larry spat on the ground, then glanced dismissively at Frank Bishop's body. Frank, you useless piece of shit. Couldn't even handle a girl with 2 other guys. Got yourself killed by a skinny kid. He shook his head. Gotta say, though, that kid's got moves. I was watching from the trees, and the way he fought gave me the damn chills. Good thing I stayed put. His eyes flickered to Miles's body. Then he viciously kicked Frank's corpse. You call yourself a boss? Just because you were a few months older than me, you acted like hot shit. Making all the plans. Now look at you. You got 5 and 6 killed, and now you're dead, too. He turned back to Leo and Isabel, his grin returning. I should thank you, really. You saved me the trouble of dealing with Frank and 6. But his expression suddenly turned venomous, the veins on his forehead bulging. But you killed 5, too. I didn't give a damn about those other 2, but 5 was my brother. He was the only one who treated me like one. The skinny kid is dead, so he's paid his price. But you 2 are still breathing. Time to send you to join 5. His finger began to tighten on the trigger. It hit Leo then. The fourth man had been here all along, hiding. He had let Miles fight Frank's crew, hoping Miles would do his dirty work for him. There had been a mutiny brewing. He just hadn't counted on Miles being good enough to kill his friend, too. As Larry's finger tightened, Leo, running on his last shred of adrenaline, closed his eyes and yelled, Wait, you were hired by Sharon Thornton. You're doing this for money. I have money. Whatever she's paying, I'll double it. Triple it. It was the classic movie gambit. He didn't know if it would work, but it was all he had. To his surprise, Larry paused. But he didn't look tempted, just amused. You really think I'm that stupid? He sneered. You're just trying to buy time for the rescue team. I saw you make that call. From their position, it'll take them 15 minutes to get here. It's been 7. If I don't leave in the next few minutes, it won't matter how much money I have. Leo's heart sank. Of course. Movies were bullshit. A career criminal wasn't going to fall for such an obvious trick. This was it. They were going to die here. A crushing weight settled in his chest. He crawled to Isabel and held her close, ignoring Larry now. I'm sorry, he whispered. I couldn't protect you. I don't think we're getting out of this one. Tears welled in Isabel's eyes, but she smiled at him and shook her head. Leo, remember when we watched Titanic? I told you then, you can't leave me alone. I can die with you. Leo's heart clenched. TCH. Larry grunted. Look at you 2. Killing you both feels like I'm doing you a favor. He glanced at his watch. You've got 7 minutes left on the clock. I need 5 to get away. So, I'll give you 2 minutes to play a game with me. You win, and I'll let your girlfriend live. Without a second of hesitation, Leo said, fine, I'll play. He wasn't an idiot. This was just another form of torture. He knew Larry wouldn't let Isabel go. His mission was to kill her. But 2 minutes was 2 minutes. Maybe Rex and Kevin would get here faster than expected. It was a sliver of a hope, but he had to take it. Larry stepped back, took a knife from his pocket, and tossed it to Leo. His gun, however, remained trained on them. Ever heard of 3 cuts, 6 holes? He asked, not waiting for an answer. It's an old gang punishment. You stab yourself 3 times, and each time, the blade has to go all the way through. 3 stabs, 6 holes. Simple. Here's the deal, he said, the knife gleaming in the faint light. You do it to yourself twice in the next 2 minutes, and I let her walk. But I should warn you, after 2, maybe you live. After 3, you'll bleed out so fast, not even God could save you. A cold dread washed over Leo. He wasn't just supposed to endure it. He had to inflict it on himself. He wasn't sure he could. He'd probably pass out from the pain and fear before he even finished. No, Isabel screamed, her eyes wide with horror. She grabbed Leo's hand. Don't listen to him, Leo. He won't let us go no matter what you do. Larry laughed and pressed the gun to Isabel's temple. Shut up. You in a hurry to die? This is your boyfriend's choice, not yours. He looked back at Leo. 1 minute left. You don't start now. She goes first. Don't, Leo yelled. He gripped the knife, his head bowed, staring at his own arm. His heart was a jackhammer in his chest. He vaguely remembered reading something online about parts of the body you could pierce without hitting a major artery. But he couldn't remember where. He took a deep breath. It was a gamble. He closed his eyes and drove the knife into his left bicep. A muffled tearing sound mixed with Isabel's shriek. His entire arm went numb, then exploded with white-hot agony. Warm blood gushed down his sleeve, looking black in the dim light, dripping onto the forest floor. The sight of his own blood pouring out of him made his stomach churn. Isabel was sobbing hysterically, held back by Larry, forced to watch. The knife in Leo's arm felt like it was in her own heart. Larry whistled. Not bad. You and that other kid are cut from the same cloth. Real tough bastards. A shame. 2 more to go. Less than a minute. Better hurry. He grinned. And take a good last look at your girlfriend. After 2 more of those, you'll be bleeding out too fast to see anything. Leo gritted his teeth and pulled the knife from his arm. The pain was blinding. He almost fainted right there. He didn't think he could make it to a 3rd cut. 20 seconds, Larry said coolly. Leo's fingertips were white from blood loss. The knife handle was slick in his palm. Isabel's desperate cries echoed in his ears. He looked up at her, saw her tear-streaked face, and with a guttural cry, he plunged the knife into his left thigh. The pain made the veins in his forehead stand out in sharp relief. He bit down so hard he thought his teeth would crack. 1 more. 10 seconds. Larry's voice was the calm ticking of a bomb. Leo's vision was starting to swim. He felt dizzy, lightheaded. Had he hit an artery? Was he already dying? 5, 4. Larry counted down, pressing the gun back against Isabel's head. Leo yanked the knife from his leg, and without another thought, raised it to stab his other thigh. 3, 2, 1. Bang! Another gunshot echoed through the night. A hot spray of liquid hit Leo's face. His heart stopped. He snapped his head up and saw a scene so gruesome his own tears sprang to his eyes. The blood on Leo's face belonged to Larry. With a soft thud, Larry's knees buckled. He pitched forward, landing face down in the dirt. The gun slid from his lifeless fingers. Isabel let out a terrified scream. Leo's eyes were wide with shock. The man's heart had been blown out of his chest. As the reality set in, Leo pulled Isabel into a protective embrace. His vision blurred, a profound coldness seeping into his limbs. His body began to tremble. He slumped backward, and Isabel caught him, her own tears falling as she pressed her hands against his bleeding wounds. But there were too many. She only had 2 hands. Leo, Leo, she sobbed, her voice a frantic, heartbroken wail. Hearing his name, Leo managed a weak smile. For a second, he thought the gunshot had come from Larry's gun. But it was Larry who had fallen. Before he could figure out what happened, a pain cough came from nearby, followed by a curse. Shit, that son of a bitch Larry almost got me killed along with everyone else. Good thing I had a backup. Following the voice, they saw the impossible. Frank Bishop, the man they thought was dead, was staggering to his feet. He swayed and fell back down, but in his right hand he held a pistol identical to Larry's, a thin wisp of smoke curling from its barrel. He was the one who had fired the shot. Frank coughed again, then reached behind him and pulled the knife from his own back with a grunt of pain. He used a tree to haul himself up and began limping toward them. Leo's pupils constricted. Frank hadn't been dead, just unconscious. Larry's arrival must have woken him. He must have heard everything, played dead, and waited for the perfect moment to execute his treacherous partner. The irony was staggering. If his crew hadn't been tearing itself apart, he, Isabel, and Miles would have been dead hours ago. Their plan had been simple. Frank's team flushes Isabel up the mountain, and Larry, armed with a gun, waits in ambush. If Larry hadn't been plotting a coup, it would have been over before it began. But in the end, it seemed the outcome was the same. Frank was alive, and he had a gun. I didn't want to use this, Frank rasped, inching closer. But you three nearly killed me. And that backstabbing piece of shit wanted me dead too. Heh, everyone wanted me dead, but I'm the last one standing. He grimaced. Too bad I only had one bullet. Larry had the rest. Otherwise, you'd both be dead already. He kicked Larry's corpse aside and headed for the gun on the ground. He was going to use it to finish the job. As Frank got closer, Leo's vision tunneled. His body felt heavy, weak. He couldn't get up. He couldn't protect her. He recognized the feeling from when he'd been buried in the earthquake rubble in the Ozarks. Shock. He was bleeding out. Isabel held him, her own body trembling. Her ankle was useless. There was no last-ditch effort to be made, no chance to grab the gun first. This was the end. She wiped the tears from her face and held him tighter, her voice soft but clear. Leo, I'm sorry. It looks like I'm not going to get to marry you after all. Her lips trembled into a sad, beautiful smile. But I really wanted to. Leo could no longer speak. He looked at her face, a tear tracing a path from the corner of his eye into his hair. He remembered, from what felt like a lifetime ago, the last time he'd heard her innermost thoughts. I really want to marry you. The first time he'd heard it, it had been a secret wish. The last time, a final, spoken regret. As Frank bent down and his fingers closed around the second gun, 3 more gunshots tore through the silence. Bang, bang, bang. Frank's body jerked with each impact. He collapsed without ever seeing who had shot him. In the distance, Leo heard frantic footsteps, and then the rising wail of sirens. He heard Isabel, her voice breaking with relief, screaming for paramedics, for a doctor, for someone to save him. Then, the world went black. As his consciousness faded, Isabel's desperate cries and the approaching sirens blended into a sound that wasn't jarring, but beautiful. He wasn't worried anymore. The rescue team was here. Isabel was safe. As for him, he just felt cold, the sounds fading away. Maybe the movies weren't all lies. They always said love could transcend death. Maybe it really could. Beep, beep, beep. When Leo regained consciousness, he couldn't open his eyes. The only thing he could perceive was the steady, rhythmic beeping of medical equipment and the faint, antiseptic smell of a hospital. He was alive. He'd been saved. He tried to move, but his body felt disconnected, leaden from what must have been a long time unconscious. He lay still, staring at the inside of his eyelids. His last memory was of 3 gunshots, Frank Bishop falling, and Isabel's screams. It was easy to piece together. Frank, so consumed with revenge, had been too slow. The rescue team had arrived just in time. Leo lay there for what felt like an eternity, his thoughts a slow, thick sludge, until some strength finally returned to his limbs. He turned his head to the left. Isabel was there, slumped in a chair, her head resting on the edge of his bed. She was asleep. Her long hair was fanned out across the white sheets, and there were dried tear tracks on her cheeks. A single tear clung to her eyelashes, trembling with each gentle breath. He opened his mouth to speak, but his throat was dry and scratchy. Instead of words, a series of harsh coughs escaped, shaking his body and sending waves of agony through his wounds. His left leg, in particular, felt like it was on fire. The first cough startled Isabel awake. Her sleep had been light, fragile. Her red-rimmed eyes snapped open, and the moment they focused on him, they filled with a brilliant, relieved light. Instantly, fresh tears welled up and spilled over, splashing onto the back of his hand, hot against his cold skin. "Oh, Leo, you're finally awake," she sobbed. He tried again, his lips moving for a long moment before a hoarse whisper came out. "Who are you? Who am I?" Isabel's hand, which was clutching his, began to tremble violently. A tear landed on his knuckles, and he could feel her heart break through her touch. She stared at him, completely lost, her mind reeling. She had never considered that he would wake up and not remember her. He didn't have a head injury. Why would he have amnesia? Refusing to believe it, she choked out, You don't remember me? Leo studied her face with a complex expression, as if trying to place her. Then, a moment later, a weak chuckle escaped his lips. "Ha ha, of course I remember you," he rasped. "Just a joke. I figured you'd been having a rough time while I was out. Thought I'd lighten the mood." Isabel froze, the tears still wet on her face. Her expression shifted from terror to pure, unadulterated fury. She raised her hand and smacked his shoulder weakly, her voice a mixture of a sob and a scolding hiss. "Leo, how can you joke at a time like this? It's not funny. Do you have any idea how scared I was? I was so scared that you would never." Her words caught in her throat, and she turned away, scrubbing at her face with her sleeve, not wanting him to see her so undone. A pang of guilt hit Leo. He'd misjudged that one badly. Forcing through the pain, he reached out and caught the hem of her sleeve. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I just saw you looking so tense. Don't cry. You'll make my wounds hurt more." He tried to pull a pained, goofy face to make her smile. She turned back, still sniffling, and shot him a glare, but the overwhelming concern in her eyes betrayed her anger. She sniffled, bit her lip, and pressed the call button next to his bed. "Just wait. The doctor will be here in a minute to check on you. It's been 6 days since you went into a coma. When they brought you down from the mountain, the doctor said you'd lost too much blood. They told me you might not make it." Her voice broke, and she couldn't continue. She just fussed with his blanket, her hands trembling slightly. Leo was stunned. He'd been on the brink of death, unconscious for 6 days, and had woken up just like that. His reputation for being unkillable was getting ridiculous. After the initial shock, his thoughts cleared, and one name surfaced. Miles. His throat tightened. He knew it was impossible, but he had to ask. He looked at Isabel, his voice barely a whisper. And Miles. At the name, a shadow of profound grief passed over Isabel's face. She lowered her head and slowly shook it. The silent answer hit Leo like a bucket of ice water. The warmth he'd felt upon waking vanished. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The image of Miles flashed in his mind. The quiet kid who always had their back, whose life had been cut short in that dark, ugly forest. He hadn't even died whole. The pain from his physical wounds was nothing compared to the crushing weight in his chest. Just then, the door opened and several doctors in white coats entered, followed by 2 uniformed police officers. The doctors performed a quick check, confirming his vitals were stable, before ceding the floor to the police. After introducing themselves, they asked if he was well enough to give a statement. Leo nodded numbly. He answered their questions in a monotone, his mind detached. But when they asked how Miles died, his nails dug into his palms, the knuckles turning white. The memories flooded back. Miles's bloody face, his broken body, his last words. The images were too sharp, too clear. It became hard to breathe. He couldn't speak. He could only cry, silent tears tracking paths down his temples into his hair. Don't be sad, Leo. I'm gone. In his mind's eye, he saw a younger Miles, dressed in his blue and white middle school uniform, smiling that shy, sunny smile at him from a classroom window. A permanent image seared into his memory. A boy's chapter had closed, written in the romantic, tragic light of a setting sun.